I think it goes without saying that most professional brewers started off making beer in their own homes, which led to what can only be described as an obsession for the craft that either influenced their career or for some resulted in a fundamental change of careers. While some are happy enough with the hobby of home brewing, it's no secret that a good portion of home brewers, perhaps even a majority, fantasize about one day going pro. This is the Brewlosophy Podcast. I'm your host, Marshall Schott, and today I'm joined by a couple local friends who did exactly this and will be sharing their very unique experience today. Jason Hatwig and Jason Gray from Grayview Brewing. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the studio and dealing with all of these terrible technical issues we've been having. I'm so stoked to finally have you guys on.
I think it goes with saying that we are too.
Absolutely, sir.
Well, we're going to get more into our history in the next segment. We've already cracked a beer, or are we on beer 2 already with everything we've dealt with?
Well, I mean, it was a crowler, so I mean...
Basically like, beer 2, yeah. I know my glass has never gotten empty is all I know. So.
I kept it full.
Yeah, you did. I appreciate that. And now I've got to say that of all the people I've known to jump into professional brewing over the years, your guys' story is one of the more interesting ones. And I'm really excited our listeners get to hear about that from you guys. In addition to discussing your experiences going pro, we're going to be drinking some beers that you brought over and talking about those as well. And I also fielded some questions from patrons of Brewlosophy that I'll be tossing at you. Some will be sprinkled in throughout the show, and then we're going to hit a handful of them at the end as well, if you guys are cool with that. So,
yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm terrified, but I'm cool.
There's nothing to. Oh, we've got nice patrons. They're not going to put you on the spot too much. But so, if you're a fan of this show and you'd like to receive a reward for your support, please consider becoming a patron of Brewlosophy over at patreon.com/Brewlosophy, where you can make a small pledge and receive rewards like access to unpublished contributor recipes, unique discounts at YakimaValleyHops.com, and an invitation to a monthly live Q&A session with somebody in the brewing world coming up next month, or I suppose this month, almost this month, April of 2025. Another local brewing legend, my friend Tommy Caprellian, will be hanging out with patrons. Yeah, you guys know Tommy. Yep, he's an incredible brewer with over a decade of experience in the professional game. I'm really excited for this session, and I'm going to hit you guys up for doing one of these in the future as well, because people love to talk to professional brewers and poke their brains in a more intimate setting like that. So to be a part of these sessions, you have to make your pledge of just $3 or more by Friday, April 25th, 2025, as Tommy's going to be hanging out on Saturday, the 26th. All past sessions are stored on our private Patreon and YouTube pages, so you can go back and watch them whenever you like. Again, that's patreon.com/Brewlosophy. Another really easy way to help us out is by using the links found at brewlosophy.com/support when you're shopping online. Your experience won't change at all, and we get a little kickback for the referral. And if you wouldn't mind letting us know what you think about this show by leaving a rating and review in Apple Podcast or wherever it is you listen to podcasts, we'd appreciate that as well. Thanks so much to everybody who has already done that. Feedback is brought to you by Clawhammer Supply, who are known for their incredible all-in-one electric brewing systems. I've brewed on both their 120 and 240 volt systems, and I'm telling you, these things are legit, efficient, easy to use with a relatively small footprint. You're not going to be disappointed with these units. Plus, the guys behind the company run an amazing YouTube channel, which you can find by searching YouTube for Clawhammer Supply. If you're in the market for electric brewing gear or even just reasonably priced kettles and such, make sure to check out what Clawhammer Supply has to offer at clawhammersupply.com. And don't forget to let them know Brewlosophy sent you when you're checking out. That's clawhammersupply.com. All right, listener Weston Wright wrote in with yet another correction to something we talked about on a recent episode. I'm curious to hear your guys' perspective on this. Will and I had talked about using ascorbic acid in the mash to reduce the risk of cold side oxidation. And in doing so, we were not very scientific about it because we just don't understand the depths of that, as well as other things in brewing. So somebody called us out on that. We read that in the feedback. And then in the feedback response, we also said something wrong. So here it is. Weston says, fun listen. Quick note, though. You mentioned being unsure about the pronunciation of chelating. He says, it's chelating. So we not only were we wrong about the topic of it, we didn't even say it right. So I appreciate you hitting us up, Weston. You're right. We didn't. I made a comment on that episode that I don't even know. I've seen that word chelating many times, but I've never said it out loud until that episode. And of course, we both said it wrong. So we even joked about it. I appreciate you hitting us up, Weston. Do you guys know what that is? Have you heard that term before?
I've heard the term, but I also have heard the term keloid, which is completely off
topic and unrelated. Yeah.
Aren't those like if you cut yourself or something? And
yeah, you like scar really bad. Yeah, right. So take that as your keloid about mispronouncing. Chelating.
I really hope that is not what we're putting in our mash, but of course we got it wrong. I mean, that's just the way we go. But again, if you guys have any corrections for us, any feedback whatsoever, you can hit us up at feedback@brewlosophy.com or drop us a note on social media. We are going to take a quick break, have a couple more sips of beer, and when we come back, we'll be getting into your guys' experience going pro.
We all know that designing recipes is really fun, and doing it well is so much easier with good software. We at Brewlosophy recently made the switch to Brewfather, and honestly, y'all, we could not be happier. Brewfather utilizes the latest technology to bring you the most robust cloud-based recipe design software that can be accessed anywhere, on your phone, tablet, desktop, and even offline. It also works seamlessly with numerous third-party devices to make it easier to monitor every step of your brew. I know change can be difficult, but trust me when I say you need to go to brewfather.app today to try it out for yourself. That's brewfather.app.
Missions to Mars, driverless cars, AI chatbots. Feels like we're already living in the future. Well, Robinhood is built for the future of trading. Robinhood's intuitive design makes trading seamless. Spot opportunities and take control of your trades with tools like screeners, simulated returns, and Strategy Builder. On Robinhood, traders have access to hundreds of popular stocks and ETFs. 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, so you can keep up with today's fast-paced markets. You can now even trade stocks and crypto all in one place with the new desktop platform, Robinhood Legend. The future of trading is fast, powerful, and precise. Experience it now on Robinhood. Investing is risky. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Trading during extended hours involves additional risks. Cryptocurrency services are offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services.
There's no denying that stainless steel is the best material for brewing equipment, and Delta Brewing Systems offers some of the lowest prices on high-quality stainless gear, like the Firm Tank, which in addition to holding 8 gallons or 30 liters of wort, comes with a domed lid to even further reduce the chances of a messy blow-off. Plus, it can hold up to 4 psi of pressure for closed transfers. Delta Brewing Systems also has their own line of brew kettles, as well as one of the lowest-priced all-in-one electric brewing systems out there, and their prices are shockingly low. If you're in the market for legit stainless gear that won't break the bank, do yourself a favor and head over to deltabrewingsystems.com today.
If you want to feel more connected to humanity and a little less alone, listen to Beautiful Anonymous. Each week, I take a phone call from one random anonymous human being. There's over 400 episodes in our back catalog. You get to feel connected to all these different people all over the world. Recent episodes include one where a lady survived a murder attempt by her own son. But then the week before that, we just talked about Star Trek. It can be anything. It's unpredictable. It's raw. It's real. Get Beautiful Anonymous wherever you listen to podcasts.
Every pro brewer has a story, and while each of those stories has its own idiosyncrasies, most follow a fairly typical track, but that's not really the case for Grayview Brewing, at least from my perspective. You guys really seem to have gone about this process in a very unique way. Now, before we talk about where you're at today with the brewery as it is, let's start at the beginning. Relative beginning. What is the genesis of this magical partnership between the two of you? How did you get your start in brewing in general? I mean, home brewing, obviously.
Correct. You want me to start, Big J?
Yeah, go ahead. In
Awesome.
the world.
I'd love to. Well, started as a home brewer nearly about 20 years ago, and my dad brewed as a child. I was a child. He was an adult man, but but I just recall growing up in the dairy farm up in Northern California that he brewed this beer in a bucket in the clawfoot porcelain tub.
Oh yeah.
my mom would be like, "That better not blow up," and but the bottles did as he overprimed them. But just had an affinity for beer, but never drank it until later in life, of course. But then years later, moved down to Fresno and my day job, I'm a PT, physical therapist, and my in-laws gave me a brew in the box. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
And it was probably 10 years old. I didn't know that, though, but I was so excited because I'm like, I could brew like my dad did before me. And I had a patient at the time, blew out his knee. His name was Kyle, and a super cool dude. He's like, you will not brew in the box. Bro, you will not brew in the box. I'm a chemist. I brewed up in Bellingham, Bellevue, Washington.
Bellingham, that's where I'm from. Yeah. We'll have to get back to that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And he's like, no, I'll teach you. And I'm like, oh, that'd be great. But I need to discharge you first, bro. I can't affiliate with patients outside of work. But,
right.
So successfully rehabbed his knee. And then sure enough, he came over and told me what to buy, glass carboy, not a plastic bucket, some bags. And so the first batch we ever did was all extract with a little tea bag of grain. And the thing that really he impressed upon me was the cleanliness. And I think a lot of home brewers just don't have that surgical mindset after the boil. And so learning really good technique set me off on the right foot for home brewing. And so started with 5 gallons, like I said, and then, we have 5 gallons of beer. You have friends over that one weekend and it's gone. And you're like, that sucks.
Need more. Yeah.
Need more. And so I learned the scale of volume quite quickly. So I converted a half barrel on the camping Bunsen burner and went from 5 gallons to 10 gallons. And then I'm like, that still isn't enough. And then I had my local fabricators from M&M Fabricators in Clovis build my green machine.
Oh, wow.
And it's still around, and it is awesome.
We just actually brought it out of retirement. And
that's rad.
Super cool.
So so they built your...
I built it. I designed it, and they built it from
full
scratch.
That is awesome.
The
I didn't know
kettles,
that.
everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's about, if we top it off, it's about 30 gallons. So not quite
cool.
a barrel. And it's got a pump, and now it has a grant, and you got your HLT and your mash and your boil, and it works quite well.
That is so cool.
Super fun to brew on.
I bet.
Yeah.
And I bet it's even more fun to talk about though. When you build your own stuff. I just geek out on stuff like that anyways. Around what time was it when you were getting it? Like, was it fairly soon out, like before I met you guys, or?
That was like a little bit before you'd kind of met us, and even just a couple years before Jay and I kind of met. So, I had similar kind of like, I brewed in the bathtub a few times.
That explains so much.
Right?
With his clothes on, I hope.
I was actually brewing like all natural hard root beers. That was my first thing, and I mean down to like wood sticks and the whole thing, right? And then my sister was really into dry English ciders, and I researched all the snot out of that and made her some because she's really particular, and we just enjoyed doing that a few times. And then my friend Ben was like, let's level up. And he did like all grain kind of brewing and stuff, and had a full setup and an igloo. And, it's not a full setup by any means when it comes down to the green machine aspect. But I brewed with Ben a few times and got my own stuff, and then started brewing. We have a core group of friends that we'd travel. It was before we had a lot of distribution in the valley. Yeah, we're traveling to all these like breweries up down the coast in California and Oregon, Washington, and then eventually Jay and I met, and take it from there, Jay, because that was a fun little encounter.
I want to know when this was as well. So would include that, because I'm curious.
We think it's 2012-ish.
Okay.
Maybe into 2011, early 2012.
2011, 12.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I'm trying to think. I entered actually the Lemon Ale to the Fresno Fair and got some really good feedback from the late Kevin Cox. At that time was, so impressive. As a home brewer, you go to all the events down in the tower Tioga or
and Kevin was such a staple. Rest in peace.
At that time, Rick was with them.
And that's right.
Gosh, he's just like, oh my goodness, the brewer talked to me.
That's right.
It's so cool.
I think he remembered my name.
And I'm like, I'm a home brewer, and they just acknowledge you, and but it was so cool. But yeah, it was either 2011. When did my mom pass? I think it was 11. So we were on the way up north, actually, and I dropped it off at Ben Como's and then had the funeral and all that stuff. But so back to kind of our story meeting, we actually had this similar group of friends that would come over and say, "Hey, I want to learn how to brew, bro."
Cool.
Like, "Hey, come on over." So 5 or 6 would come over and end up not
Have a
really
fun day.
have a fun
Super
day
fun
with
day.
us. Let's just
I've
put it
got
this way.
stories myself. Trust me. Yeah.
So they drank a lot, and it was a lot of fun. But so one fateful day, I'm getting the grain at Ben Como's for the green machine, and I see this guy in the, head full into the hop fridge over there on Olive back in the day.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Old school.
And
Big
he
Comos.
comes out of the beer fridge, and it was almost like slow motion, and he didn't have the hair he has now, but it was just like, what?
We
Who's
kind of
this
spot
guy?
each other. We're like,
And across the room, and I'm like,
eye contact, romance music.
Oh,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing.
Dreamweaver.
Right?
and then I'm like, you can't see my hands, but you're playing the embe or the cajon or something, right? He's like,
Yeah.
I do that. And I'm like,
I was playing percussion at the time.
oh, cool. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're church. What's your name?
Yeah.
And he's like, Jason. And I'm like, oh,
That's my name.
No, he's like, what's your name? Jason.
Oh yeah.
And he sees,
Game over.
We're obviously you're brewing, and I'm at that point, using a full 50-pounder, and she's like, wow, you getting a lot of grain,
Yeah,
bro.
I had like 2 little bags, and he's like throwing a sack over his shoulder.
And so he's like, we should brew together. I mean, shoot, man. And
Yeah.
he's like, what decade are you from? I'm like, oh, no way.
Yeah.
70s?
We're 70s kids.
Oh, we need to brew together.
Yeah.
So sure enough, next brew day, actually that same batch of grain, we brewed together, and it was like the heavens parted.
Yeah.
I mean, there was not a smoother brew day that I'd ever have in my career.
So cool.
Yeah.
We just finished each other's dotted each I and crossed the T's, but it was just like 2 brewers helping each other. It was seamless. And so
And we had all kinds of unique individual styles that we owned. We all did the basic, brown ale stouts and some IPAs and stuff. But, Jay Gray was, we'll call him Little J today, right?
Little J.
Little J.
Or we have some other names we get into later. But, I walked in, I saw the green machine. I was like, holy smokes, this wow, we're not playing around over here.
Yeah.
And I think that was, I might have brewed at home maybe 2 or 3 more times after that, because I was like, we're just going to your house from here out, using this
Actually,
machine.
I don't think you ever brewed at home again.
I think maybe I did one saison with the guys.
Oh, that's true.
Or your place became more like his home.
It
so
was
he
really fast.
Yeah.
I think even within the third time we brewed, he's like, here's your key.
That's awesome.
To the pub.
Key to the pub. Yeah.
And
Jay Gray
I was
has
like,
an amazing
really?
pub at his house. I mean, we could do a whole episode just on what you did to create that space,
would
because
be
it's really
fun.
rad. But so you just started brewing at his place all the time.
Yeah, literally. And then it was pretty much every weekend, because we both had Fridays off at the time. We were working condensed work weeks and stuff like that. So just naturally, everything kind of aligned, and we had the same time together. And we were both kind of scientific in our approach, really thoughtful about things. And then we both had some complementary styles, but we had this side of untapped things that he experimented on one way, and I experimented on another. Was like sours, and he was doing all this herbal stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is a crazy connection. We can learn and spawn from each other and kind of grow this thing into something way cool.
Yeah. And just to note, I mean, I'm not well read. I like to read, but I think I was burnt out from all my grad school and doctoral training. But a lot of learning in the brew world by doing. And again, you read what you need to read, but a lot of just talking to other brewers. And Big J, he's the brain, I would say, of our relationship. I'll call myself the brawn.
I'm
the
a dork.
We're both dorks, but
I mean, welcome to the club. Come on,
But,
we brew. That's what.
I don't profess to know everything about brewing at all. And so we might have a lot of questions, just like we just fielded. I was like, or felt, whatever.
Field.
Felt it. Proper English. That was a good
Speaking
pale
of
ale.
well read,
Yeah, right.
I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
likewise,
therapy.
and I
Yeah.
can't say collating properly. so-
Right.
Keloiding.
But the point is, we are lifelong learners, and
Yeah.
so we will always say, "Hey, that's great technique," and we can integrate that. And like Jay said, we really completed. It sounds so like
You
a
complete
brew.
me.
You complete
Yeah.
me. But like you said, the styles were like a cog in the, just
So
it fit.
cool.
It was really neat.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and something I don't know, he knows, something he doesn't know, I come and I actually read this
Yeah.
once, and but it's been really great brewing with this guy for all these years for sure.
We never really had to fight about anything. It was kind of like one of those where, hey, I want to do this next. Is like, oh man, if it's important to you, let's do it. You know, and so
can you say crystal malt?
Yeah, right. We went. Oh man, we went down this like trail of IPAs, and you know, I was like, hey, we should start like backing down the crystal malts, you know, our basic West.
no.
This is like way back, right?
No, you don't do that.
Yeah, you don't do that. And I'm like, no, I've been reading some stuff. It's gonna happen. It's gonna turn around, you know. And he's like, okay, well, let's start 10% at a time. And I think nine beers later, you know, that we made, it was like, oh my
Crystal
gosh,
malt was gone.
this is so good. You know, it's all crispy and happy and nice.
No more caramel malt tea.
Right.
Oxidized.
It
IPAs.
lasted longer in the fridge and on draft, and it just like. But you go through that, and we did a lot of. I don't know. We probably did a couple of batches together, like early on, really fast.
Yeah, like you said, our day job schedules really jived. So our Fridays and weekends were brew days.
God, I don't mean to get overly sentimental. You guys have an obviously awesome relationship. I think anybody who hangs out with the two of you together feel it, you know. And I can get sentimental because this is my show, and that's what but it reminds me of, this is the first time I've actually talked about this on the show, and I don't mean to interject too much here, but I had a good friend who I brewed with as well, Chris, and I talk about him all the time on the show. And 2 weeks ago he died, and it's watching you guys. I get a little emotional about it because that feeling that you have, where it's like, man, I can rely on him to check me on these things. Crystal malt,
right? Crystal malt.
And it's just there's something special there, and it almost feels bigger than what it is. You know, at least that's how it was for me. And Brewlosophy wouldn't be today if it weren't for that relationship. It just feels so familiar. I love it. I love watching it. I love being with you guys. There's just you bring it. You bring the goods. And
thank you. You bring it too.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know.
I mean, when technology is working, I bring you even a little bit better. We are having so many issues here. I will get that out, and it's going to result in me spending a lot of money this afternoon. I can feel it because I think I know what the issue is. But we're back. We're doing this thing. Real quick, like I said earlier, we're going to sprinkle in some questions from patrons. The ones that I'm sprinkling in now, I feel like go with what we're talking about. So Camilo asked, did you guys have jobs before? You already mentioned you're a PT. I don't think you've gone too much into what you do. And did you leave those jobs to start the brewery, or how did it impact what your day job?
That's a phenomenal question. So yeah, I worked in a civil engineering firm for years. I'm on 27 years now, but we continue to have our day jobs. And we probably tell a whole story about how that sorted out. But we even when we got into the pro level side, where we were starting out, we kind of progressed and grew. But we decided, our day jobs are important. We love what we do in our day world. Mm-hmm. I'm in the marketing side now of our civil engineering operations. But it was important that when we went pro to not like depend on it for our families, which we already had, kids and everything. And so, our responsibilities were already there. Yeah. And our spouses were like, okay, we're cool with your hobby, which is going pro. That's cool. But,
the hobby of going pro.
But I'm not wearing like rags around here, like that's trying to, go backwards in what we've built together. And so, out of loyalty to our jobs and our family, we maintain still our jobs even to this day. But go ahead and tell some more of the how we grew, what we started with, even, and our opportunities.
Well,
that kind of
I think that's part of when I say that your guys' story is as unique as it is. I think that's part of the reason it's not very common that professional commercial brewers have a career outside of that. And you actually see, we know people who jumped ship from Brewlosophy has one of these people. He was a lawyer, Cade was, and he jumped ship to go to school at Oregon State so that he could be a beer scientist. I mean, like, this happens. I know Brad from Crow and Wolf. He was doing other stuff, gets into beer, and then now that's his whole life. And that is I think, and this is just my my perspective on this and opinion, but you have to be really committed to drop a career that's paying the bills to jump into something risky as brewing, in my opinion. But
Well, absolutely right. And again, I think one of our philosophies once we did go pro, which we'll get to that story, was to stay small and stay profitable.
Yeah.
There was no way that we were going to be able to provide for our families on beer alone.
Yeah.
So the day job with our schedules, it was just really, if we didn't have the support of our wives, we wouldn't be doing this interview with you today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So bless our wives for loving us. And,
Amen.
My wife started craft with MGD when we first met.
Yeah.
That was the only beer she ever had. And so look at her now. She enjoys real beer.
does she really?
Yeah, she does.
Because I've been doing Brewlosophy for almost over 11 years now, and Laura still does not. She'll, if we're camping and there's not a White Claw nearby or something, she'll grab a Miller Lite or whatever. But it's not like she's enjoying it. She definitely would not be drinking what we're drinking now. Which I want you guys to talk a little bit about the beers that you brought over in a minute. But she like the IPA thing, kind of like your stereotype is like. It's just too much. It's too bitter. There's too much going on. And again, bless our wives. What she's taught me is it's totally okay for me not to like what you like. And I'm like, it's a good point. Like, I don't need to get you, like manipulate you to enjoy beer if you just don't love it. And she still appreciates the craft. So it's a really cool dynamic because like we went out to Burning Sun Brewery last night, had a great time, a little bit too good of a time to be honest. And she's drinking her seltzers, the Burning Sun seltzers and stuff, and she's loving it, And so I there's a part of the, I mentioned it already that I'm not going to try to, hey, this is my beer, you got to like it. No, it's cool that they can support what we do in their own ways,
Absolutely.
Yep. Jenny does like a good coconut decay.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah, she's
fantastic
just
beer.
all about that.
That's awesome. So we talked a little bit about families. We talked about some of your home brewing background and stuff. A question that Rich, patron Rich asked is, and I want to couch this in what I believe he was getting at here, is a lot of homebrewers, they enter competitions because it's fun. They do surprisingly good, and then they're like, man, I should start a brewery. No. Rich asked, did you have any award-winning recipes, and if so, how many? But what I'm going to add on to that is, if so, was that part of the inspiration for you guys wanting to go pro?
100%.
Well,
yeah,
absolutely.
We had a few, but not like anything like wild out there. But we more on the local level won some contests but we were kind of seasoned as home brewers by then, several years, and we were playing with stuff that hadn't really made it out to the valley yet.
Absolutely. I mean, our local brewery, Tioga Sequoia, had a homebrew competition back. I think it started in 2015. I think.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Jay and I came up with a recipe. It was an oyster shell stout, and people were like, "Oysters? What are you doing?" And so I think there was over 50 entries. We got to the finals, top 10.
Awesome.
But we didn't win. But we learned so much from that first experience because our colleagues at the time, two dudes. They won the fan favorite. And so a little caveat on how they ran their competition. There was the brewer's favorite, or brewer's choice, and the fan favorite. Yeah. And so like Big J said, at that point in our homebrew career, we were like, these are our recipes. And so, as much as it would be great to be the brewer's favorite, well, the brewer's favorite and the fan favorite both got to do R&D at the brewery, which is super cool. But the brewer's favorite, they kept the recipe for themselves. And so we're like, no.
Yeah.
So after that first year, the two dudes, oh my goodness, those guys brought family. They had more than the entered beer. They had swag, stickers, magnets. It was like, note to self, Big J.
I voted for them.
So did I.
I was actually supposed to go to that, and something came up, and I couldn't. But when two dudes won, I remember thinking, who's two dudes?
I know. It's the first time I ever heard of them.
Yeah.
But it was Ain't That a Peach, I think, which one? Such a good beer.
That's the neat thing about that contest is it was all creative beers. It had to be more than just your your basic beer. It was like they were pushing the envelope on what kind of cool things are out there that haven't hit the industry yet.
Yeah. So after that year, Big J was like, "Hey, I want to make a hazy," and I was like, "A hazy beer? What are you talking about?"
What's a hazy?
And we're talking, this is like 10 years ago. And
it's like the opposite of all the IPAs we've been making.
He's like, "Have you ever heard of Heady Topper?" I'm like, kinda.
I was like, my ex brother-in-law got me some, and it was a very big inspiration with some of those early hazies, juicies, and all that stuff. So
we entered that beer. We called it Juicy Got Crazy. And there's an 80s video that's just hilarious. Big J's like, Juicy Got Crazy.
Oaktown 357. That's got to be on the soundbite eventually.
And so lo and behold, we win the fan favorite year 2 of the
So awesome.
Tioga Sequoia homebrew competition. And at that point, I do believe we learned from the two dudes. So not only did we have Juicy, but we had another beer called Ground Zero at the time, which was a hoppy brown. Maybe we had 3. I don't remember if we had a third, but we had more choices. And so people were interested because, we had more beer at the end of the day, and people liked voting for us.
What was really cool is we got to independently represent a beer each. So even though we brewed them together, we were like, well, let's enter 2. I'll enter 1, you enter 1,
Yeah.
And so we were able to kind of double up on trying to get to the finals there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That was one thing that we learned with the now it was at the time it was 2 dudes, but also bringing multiple beers to the because most homebrewers like bringing 20 bottles, and a crowd of 300 people show up, and 20 bottles is gone in like a minute, and so
20,
you got to outlast. It's kind of like all about that, because several hours of contest. So when we were brewing on Jay's much larger, we're bringing a barrel, 31 gallons basically of beer, and outlasting everybody, because we want that last.
Do not run out of beer.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
So on that second year, we met a local brewer called Joseph Soleno, and so I will never forget the day he came up to the jockey box, and that's another thing. We had jockey box and all that stuff. He tastes our beer and kind of mouthed it, rolled his eyes, looked left and right, and he's like, "It's clean." And I thought that was not yet.
Oh yeah,
that was later. But I was like, "He said it's clean, Jay."
Yeah.
Wow. He said it's clean. It's amazing. I can't believe it. Wow. Because he was up at Rogue or what have you at the time.
Yeah, didn't he go to like Kern River too, something like that, or
he was at Rogue when he came back to town. I believe he was at Riley's for a short time.
He went to Riley's for a minute. I know that,
or what have you. But to have him. Even just say that.
Learned pro. School, the whole back.
It's clean. Right. It's like one of the best things you can tell a home brewer. It's clean.
Oh,
Oh, hallelujah. So then after that, we won. It was super awesome. Joseph, I wasn't in town, but Big J brought him over to the pub, and I'm going to take the story from here, Big J.
Yeah, do it.
You do it. I wasn't there.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was there. So, we obviously in Jay Gray's pub, there's six taps.
Yeah.
And then, there's always like a bottle or something or 2 laid out. And we were at this point already like playing with barrel aged things, souring things and putting them in barrels. And so there was this one particular beer. It was as sour as it goes.
I wish I was there.
What variety goes was it? It was one of our fruited ones.
Was that our dragon fruit?
It was the dragon fruit.
Yeah.
So
barrel aged dragon fruit goes.
Ooh, yeah, it was super fruity, super good, and wine forward. And Joseph takes one sip at it, and he just starts swearing at me in my face. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, do you like it? He's just like,
It's like, F you. You're not a home brewer.
Yeah,
this isn't homebrew level. This is better than my stuff.
Oh, that's so cool. He brought, I think, a Goza over to my house one time.
Right.
Joseph did, yeah.
Right. And so he, I was like, so you like it? Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
And he's like, you guys need to just like stop already. I'm going to create an opportunity for you guys if you're in, and let's get this thing going. And he's like, we'll figure out dollars and rent and all that stuff. He's like, I got a 3.5 barrel system. You just get some fermenters and let's run. So it was our opportunity. Plus, people like Kevin Cox were like, you guys should really consider, doing more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So we took those wins.
We're skipping year 3 though. But,
year 3. We're about to drink year 3.
Absolutely.
Right,
actually, I don't know if you heard that, fans.
You jump into year 3 then.
Year 3. So year 3 comes out, and Big J and I still on the kind of the juicy train. come up with the concept of a beer modeled after the Orange Julius.
I was going to say, this smells like a freaking 50-50 bar.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, we're dating ourselves because, Orange Julius was nearly only exclusively found in the mall. And we brewed it in March because that's when the fresh, the crop of oranges come out here in the valley. And my wife, bless her, she probably names about 90% of all our beers. Okay. And so she's like, "Oh, it's March 15th. Orange Julius. We should call this Et tu, Brute." March 15th. Caesar gets killed by.
This is a
Marcus.
history lesson
Yeah,
here,
Brutus kills Orange Julius. Whatever. Julius Caesar. I'm like, honey, I think that's a little too cerebral.
Yeah.
Bless you. So that's where the Mall Rat.
Let's go back to Skate World and Mall Rat, the movie. Of
One
course.
of the better View Askew movies, in my opinion. Yeah,
or Mall Rats.
Mall
I
Rats.
should say.
Yeah, exactly.
But we didn't want to get like a cease and desist, so we split up the word, made it singular instead of plural, and
You actually reached out to the other Jason.
I did.
right?
I did. I
Jason
reached
Lee.
out to Jason Lee, and
If you're listening, Jason, we would
I was
love
like,
you to
"Hey,
have one
do
of
you
our Mall
mind?"
Rats.
And of course, no response back. But
if you responded, I'd have been really
yeah,
impressed.
it would
right?
have been cool. I'm still a big fan. He's still like,
Heck yeah.
he's got an incredible
love
photography
Jason
going
Lee.
on, man.
Yeah.
He's still doing stuff. But it was inspired by that kind of 80s vibe we all had
Yeah.
at the mall.
Did you ever go to the mall and not get an Orange Julius?
Oh my
the 80s?
goodness!
I mean, it was just
right
what
next
you
to
did.
hot dog on a stick, right?
Hot dog on a stick.
shoot.
You get a lemonade or an Orange Julius. Yeah, and this, I mean, not to break down into beer talk here, but man, this is good. It tastes
you.
like an Orange
Yes.
Julius. We're gonna get back to the story. What did you do to make it taste like that?
Well, it's homegrown oranges,
Yep.
freshly zested.
Lots
So
of
is it
zest.
just zest, or do you ferment the juice?
Oh, that's a good call, and we'll get into that too. So basically, we have our base New England, right? And so more
from our experience with Juicy the year before, right?
Yeah,
So-
exactly. So we wanted to be even more juice forward. So we went through primary fermentation and then dry hopped with our hops, vanilla, and obviously lactose is in the boil. But and then our orange zest, orange juice, and actually we dry hopped with our vanilla and hops, and then when all was done, we add our extra
Juice.
component, our juice.
So
actually,
there's real juice in
there's
there.
actual
real-
hand pressed
real-
juice, about in this 10%.
Yeah.
Wow.
10%.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the zest, we spend a lot of time zesting. This year, Jason and Ken just spent most of the time zesting. I spent a little, but not much. But a lot of zest goes into this, and you have to really be careful not to get the pith. Otherwise,
no white, no
bitter,
white.
all that bitter flavor. But it's a real, that's why we only do it once a year, because it's it's
in the ass, I would
labor.
imagine.
It's-
Well, it's a labor
Yeah.
of love for sure. Kendra and I spent about 7 hours actually, star sand,
That was
cleaning,
after my
scrubbing,
2 hours.
Oh my word.
zesting, peeling, and then I juiced them all. I got about 9 gallons of juice.
Dang.
And then 18.5 pounds of zest. But
Wow.
the key is
And then we use our juice concentrate stuff that
to supplement for the
straight up
10%.
100%
So
orange.
we actually are now using a dip technique. Actually, we're calling it, was it the
It's like the
the
bypass.
B, the B hip.
The B hip.
The bypass or your brink hop infusion protocol.
We use the yeast brink, and we just right.
Yeah,
We use the yeast brink, and then just shove a bunch of hops in it.
Yeah.
and-
So we
Oh, I
get
love
we did the initial hop instead of whirlpool. We'll do the bypass and the initial dose of zest at that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it does go through some primary fermentation with the zest, but then we dry hop it as well with the hops and the zest at the end. But it just, again, with the vanilla, should we spill the beans or?
No.
Spill it.
We'll just say okay. Well,
Okay,
I'll spill the kind of maybe the bean. I won't say what it is.
You said the bean.
The vanilla bean. Yes. Sorry, fans. It's not 100% real vanilla bean. This is a confectionery vanilla, which is used in the culinary world all over the place. So my sister's a culinary. She's a chef, and I've been exposed to products
So cool.
on that, and it's just more affordable.
More affordable, and for the mall rat, again, you think about the Orange Julius, you get that, it's almost synthetic, but it's so good.
That's so... You're spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, that is exactly it. It never tastes like orange juice. It tastes like an Orange Julius, and that whatever synthetic or whatever that is, and they're using fresh juice in the way that you guys are. Yeah. Watch this. I'm going to loop it back.
Yeah.
Back over. So you won. Was this the year 3 winner?
Oh, thank you for bringing us back.
Yeah. No,
so,
I could talk about just this beer for another hour. It's so interesting.
This was year 3. And like Big J said, we entered 2 beers, so we re-entered the remastered Salty Goat.
Okay.
Imperialized, a little bit more of your carafas to darken it up.
Yeah.
After a lot of input from
one of our friends,
too.
Justin, who worked down at in San Diego for AleSmith, was, again, not any last name, no HIPAA violation, but he was a patient. And when my other colleague, he wasn't my patient, but told me that he was a brewer, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he actually, after the first year, was at the Tioga competition, and he came to the pub, and I engaged him in conversation. He's a real quiet guy, super cool, but he's like, I don't talk beer with anyone, but this place is really awesome. So I at that point in my brewing career, even with Jay, I was like, well, how much should the base grain bill be? And I was taking notes, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'll talk to you. But I was like, oh my goodness. So that's where then we remastered, Salty Goat, and just
cool.
Really, that point forward, really advanced my homebrew game, which was really neat talking to him as a professional brewer.
That is awesome.
He really, on specifically dark beers, lectured on, percentage of specific grains, and not to go over certain, so you don't extract those crazy bitters, or nobody's doing 100% black patent beer, something out there that's like,
don't tempt me,
I want to
Jason.
Right. Short
but as far as
black
like
patent,
here's a stout for you.
He was super helpful in kind of recipe formulation.
That's awesome.
And grain proportions. And so year 3, we enter Mallrat, we enter Salty Goat. They both get to the finals again. I think we had a Groff. We had 4 or 5 beers.
Yeah. Was that like the Queen's Biscuit year too?
I don't think so.
Was that the year? Yeah. It was
either way.
Yeah.
But then, as it was brought to my attention, to the left of us was Burning Sun.
Yeah.
Dustin and Matt, and it was their first time.
Yep.
And they only brought like a case of bottles. And like just yesterday, Dustin came to the brewery because he's like, I got to get some Mallrat. That day, he's like, you guys, I was so upset at you guys. We ran out of beer in the first 10 minutes. You guys served until they had to cut you off.
Yeah.
You had so much beer.
Yeah. But I guess maybe we were the 2 dudes for them. But
right.
Quite literally.
But when we say 2 dudes, it's 2 dudes brewing. I think people might hear that as like, there was just a couple guys hanging out. No, it was a brewing. They're no longer around.
Correct.
Yeah, they changed. They had a name change when they opened to Zone 9.
Zone 9, yeah.
And that's where Incinerati currently is.
Yeah, Mike Mike's up there.
Which will segue into our other story too.
Yeah.
So we ended up winning the fan favorite again. At that point, our friends Brad and Spencer were head brewers, Kevin Cox, all the brewers, they because of our now 3rd time in the finals, they're like,
they stressed on us.
They really loved the Salty Goat, but they were like, you can't win both. So
we were trying to go for like the full sweep. We wanted both.
We did want both. Dang it!
But our friend Matt Vaught.
That's right.
Matt Vaught.
He took it, huh?
Yeah, he took the brewer's favorite with his Enigma.
Oh yeah, Brewers did the
Enigma, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually still have a
his
shirt.
pale ale, and it was super
Fortiter.
Fortiter,
yeah.
Rest in peace, Fortiter.
Yeah. But you might see a collab in the future. With
awesome!
So,
yeah. He was just messaging me yesterday.
Yeah. We good friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Love Matt. Yeah.
Also, we try to be good friends with everybody. That's sort of what we
like I said,
do.
you guys have the magic, man. Everybody feels like they're family with the Jasons.
That's
I
too
hope
kind.
so.
Well, and again, kind of the namesake. We tried to mash our names up when we were home brewers, trying to come up with.
You mean Gray Wig wasn't an option? Because
there was Gray Hat, and then I was like doing the hey, let's search, make sure it's not taken, and it was a hacking company, and I'm like, not gonna go there.
Yeah. So ultimately, in the pub, I have my old grandpa's dairy sign. He's like, "Why don't we call it Grayview?"
Yeah,
I love.
And I'm
that.
like, "Are you sure?"
And I'm like, "Yeah, it's got like this great little narrative, and we can use like the cow thingy, and it's homegrown. It's like it's got all it's all the marks that we think would kind of work. So like, why not?" And he's like, "Well, I'll ask my family if that's cool." And I was like, "Cool,
sweet." I was just like, "I don't want your name to be left out, Jay."
I'm like, oh no.
I was actually going to ask that. That was my own question because I was like, Gray's obviously in there. Where did the view come from? Grandpa, huh?
It was the name of the farm.
Oh, cool.
He had a Gray Lawn Farm and Grayview. And the fun story is our family had the largest herd of this particular breed of cow called the Dutch Belted.
Okay.
Or the Belted Galway. And my dad came up with the Celtic name, but it's Dutch Belt. So it's a black cow, when the cows would get out as a kid.
Can right there.
Oh, yeah. So all of our
cool.
cans, if you want to hold that up, Marshall, you should see. So you have the...
Hold it up for radio.
Yeah, so it's got the black and then the white belt. And so you'll always see an homage somehow, like a hidden Easter egg in our beers with regards to the history of the dairy. And
I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's a great story in the sense of, in all humility. Jay's like, well, your family has better history than mine. I'm like, whatever, dude. But okay, we'll go with it.
I got good history, but there's some prison time in between here and there. Whatever.
Brother, I can relate, man. If only people knew, right?
I'm like, Jay's good with the heifers. Let's go with that.
Oh, we're going there? Okay. So you want to hear about our other names, right?
Our other names. Yes.
Big J, Little J. Well, I'm actually the Utter J.
Utter. He's the Utter J. I'm Fat J.
Fat J.
Fat J and the Utter J.
Utter J.
I just have this vision of you guys brewing and being like, I'm bored. Let's make up stuff. And this is what happens.
That was every time.
Classic. The Utter J. Whoop, 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 whoop. Milking the cow,
God,
baby.
That is so funny.
Oh, my goodness. So after we won, pulling it back into the rat, we brewed with Drew at the time, who was the head brewer under Kevin Cox.
Yeah.
And we learned so much from Drew and Kevin.
That was the nice thing is after these wins, we were able to get into a pro brew house situation and pick up a lot of information, details before we were
so cool.
even went pro. We were just note taking everything and going, what is that? What does that do? What is So being on that,
but it was on the surface at this point. You guys had been considering going pro.
Oh yeah,
sure. We
were dreaming of it, of course.
Dreaming about how could we even license the pub?
Yeah.
My wife was like, oh hell no.
Yeah,
we're not.
Oh, your backyard pub?
Yeah, my backyard.
Oh my God.
How could we get the licensing and the county, the zoning couldn't work. And then around that time, after the win and after we brewed Mallrat, I think we had 45 gallons of 9 sixtels.
Jeez.
We actually did one on nitro, which was bomb.
Oh my gosh,
To this day, my dad's like, you gotta do nitro again. You gotta do nitro again.
Yeah.
But we now it was the third year of the competition, and then like we said, the brewers selection and the fan favorite, they would brew the beer and then serve them in Tioga Sequoia's beer garden.
Yeah.
Ours sold in 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it was gone.
Wow.
Everybody showed up.
And that was
Yeah.
Mallrat?
Mallrat.
That was Mallrat.
Wow.
Yeah,
Understandably. I mean, this is a uniquely delicious. Would you call it a milkshake IPA?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Orange,
It pretty
vanilla.
much is, right? Orange, yeah. And you still go with the any IPA, I see.
Yeah.
You're not going hazy, huh?
Sure. It's. I mean, yeah. It's got a lot of names.
Yeah.
But where do you go, right?
Yeah.
In that world, but it's really people love that flavor. It was approachable for a lot of people that don't like IPAs necessarily.
Yeah.
So even Jenny's like, oh my gosh.
I think Laura would
tasty.
enjoy this actually. Yeah.
But it is all of that. The IBUs are there. There's a bitter back end, but
Absolutely.
it's relatable with the vanilla and the orange.
I think do you guys remember Three Monkeys Brewing?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So both of those guys I worked with them up at the prison. I mean, Central Valley's small, but brewing in the Central Valley is way smaller. Like everybody knows everybody. You guys know this.
Yeah.
And I remember a comment that Mark Palacios made. He was one of the financiers, behind Three Monkeys. And he told me one time, you got to make it so that I'm not going to use his terminology. The sweet takes them back to their childhood, and what you want is to tickle that itch. And I thought, man, for somebody who doesn't brew, he wasn't the brewer,
Yeah.
he had a really good grasp of the marketing side of it. Is you make something that is nostalgic almost.
I was going to say that word.
I'm sipping
Nostalgia in
this,
a glass.
and it takes me back to the mall.
Yeah.
Just sipping on that, hoping my mom buys me an Orange Julius when I go to the mall. It's just so cool.
Yeah, the dentist reminds me of my sweet childhood too. So
That's good. Little nitrous oxide
Yeah.
beer, maybe.
Yeah,
Who
right.
needs, who needs
A
nitrous?
little plug out to my wife too. She actually drew that logo.
Oh,
just
she did?
one
Love
day
it.
on a napkin.
We were playing around with
Yeah.
all kinds of things. Yeah, and
The mall rat. Yeah.
She ripped that out, and it captured completely the 80s
It is
vibe.
perfect.
Right?
I actually thought that you I thought you maybe paid like a $5 person to make that
No.
because
Oh,
it's
nice.
so perfect. It
Yeah.
is so
She nailed
cool.
it.
I love it.
We're like, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing
Yeah.
it. That's the one.
So safe to say though that to answer that question, yes, it was a big inspiration for you guys having won these. I mean, competitions, but really they were more like events.
Right.
I mean, they were competitions, but not your typical BJCP sanction.
Right.
Yeah.
It opened the door because then Joseph Soleno came up with the concept of an incubator in town, which is
right.
very popular in
411, yeah?
Yep,
Yeah.
411. So up in Oregon and Washington, it was pretty common
Yeah.
to share communal space or rotating proprietorship. But he came to us and said, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Would you guys be interested?" And we're like, "Oh, hell yeah,
Yeah, that's where we're at, right? Yeah.
absolutely. We
Yeah.
we want something to not quit our day jobs, but
Yep.
to go pro.
Yeah.
Heck yeah."
Yeah, it separates the whole thing. Like, I need investors, and we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars versus a couple thousand.
Right.
And it allows you kind of to pull together all the resources and the learning. And I mean, his whole idea around the whole thing was to get help in this incubator get like new people going, and then they leave the nest, so to speak, and start their own bigger
Yeah.
version of that, and then they bring new ones in. It was such a beautiful idea, but we had some unfortunate stuff happen later on
my
after a few
goodness.
years there. Yeah.
So that started in 18. So Grayview officially started professional brewing in 18, and we were there
December
till
21, yeah.
the pandemic hit,
Right.
And actually, as awful as the pandemic was for us as a business with the beer to go,
Yeah.
really helped us.
it didn't hurt at the
make some
very-
money. It did
yeah.
not hurt us from a financial perspective.
Right. We had a lot of bars reaching out for beer back then because during the pandemic, distributors were shut down. Pretty much everything that was a delivery system was shut down. We were like, okay, we don't have a bunch of employees and people at home. We can still sell to accounts and they if they have food and whatever. So because distribution was shut down, people had to look to what was local and available.
Yeah,
And so
right.
we probably made our biggest jump during that time because we were the most accessible and super small. So we were brewing like a lot.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Did you find
And cans to go and the whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I mean,
right.
that was the thing during. Did you guys find that? I imagine you, like most people, not including me, actually, had to stay home from work for some time. Did that contribute to you having more time to go brew? And
Absolutely.
so that's such an odd thing because, and this again, back to this uniqueness is that you guys didn't. The incubator idea is genius, and we're going to get back to what happened to 411 because that's a crazy story. But it, in a weird way, because of the way that works, you didn't struggle through COVID. It actually helped you. And COVID, in a weird way, also contributed to your ability to be more dedicated to the actual brewing side of things, right?
Yeah. My day job being a healthcare provider, I was still working.
Yeah.
But at that time, I started my business 21 years ago. It was called Physio Motion Physical Therapy at Granite Park, which was where Cabo Wabo was.
Oh, yeah.
Which, that's where I got the doors for the pub.
That's awesome.
But one of my ex-employees was my employee, then my resident, and then he went off to join a company called Golden Bear up in like the Stockton, Modesto area. Years later, unbeknownst to us, but about a year before the pandemic, he reached out and said, "Hey, we're growing our business, and because you were such an influence on me professionally, would you want to join our team, corporate team?" And I was like, "Heck yeah," So it took about a year of all the financials, and so 2 weeks or about a year later, I announced to my staff, "Hey, we're Physio Motion's going to go away. We're going to be Golden Bear." And then 2 weeks later, the pandemic hit. So
my word.
it was
Timing
like
was
it was
wild.
very as a blessing in disguise at the time. So I had to furlough like half of my team, 6 months into the pandemic, because it was like, oh my goodness, we're overstaffed. Patients are freaking out. They're not coming to the clinic. So I furloughed half my team, and then shortly thereafter, they're like, "You need to get rid of another therapist." And so in my wisdom. My I've been sniffing into the mic, people. That's my
sniffy
emphasis.
wisdom,
Unbeknownst to me, I didn't consult my wife, but I'm like, hey, this
I can hear her eyes rolling.
coronavirus. I can go home and make as much money as being off.
Yeah, dude.
Wink, wink, not. So I ended up furloughing myself about 8 months, and so
Wow.
during that time, though, I believe we were brewing, and I redid my backyard and nearly killed myself. But
I went full remote at home, but I was able to start really early in the morning, get off early in the afternoon, and so we can jam down the brewery and get things going.
Crazy.
Brew a batch over the night or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was super awesome. We had Joseph with 411, Mike with Incinerati, and the three of us were the core incubators at the time. There was a very short-lived fourth, but I don't even remember the name. That's okay. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
But
something
on a
Castle.
Oh.
Not White Castle. But,
Castle. No, I'm getting hungry right now.
All their beers taste like burgers.
Burgers. But yeah, oh my goodness. In 21, I think I just saw the pictures. It was just after Christmas. One of the homeless guys at the encampment thought, hey, let's throw a Molotov cocktail in the brewery.
Believe it.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
Failed twice, in fact, until the third one
Yeah.
was the charm on that. But yeah, we wake up. Well, actually, I got a call from Roger from Pine and Palm, and he's like, "Hey, pilot Mike's in the air, and your building's on fire." And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
What?
And,
Yeah.
Mike, one of the patrons out there that enjoys beer from all the locals, he keeps an eye out for everybody, and so we got that call in and raced over there, and what a disaster, right? So
What a disaster. And for anybody listening, if you like to I think it got it. We're just going to roll with it. Here, let me click. It was just a hello. Yeah. And for anybody interested, if you're like me and you're kind of a voyeur and you like to see, you can actually Google Fresno Arson Brewery or something, and there is video of this guy, and it's weird because I think all of us are pretty sensitive to social stuff, homelessness and being one of those, and why somebody would just randomly do something like that. I remember I learned because my wife saw it on the news. So Laura saw it on the news and was like, aren't those our friends? And I was like, what are you oh my God. Yeah. And it was just such a crazy,
we really try to be wonderful, to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
The unhoused community was there, and we had to interact every day. You know, and most of the time it was, a bottle of water, or can I have a Band-Aid, or name anything that we had. And
can I seek refuge in your brewery?
Yeah, right. We've been in that situation where we broke up a fight and pulled the person in our brewery for safety while cops dealt with the other individuals. So there was encounters, but they were always, for the most part, positive encounters. Nothing that somebody set fire to your building on. So
I will tell you though, I really enjoyed being downtown in the brewery district.
Yeah.
I never feared for my life.
No.
So many people were like, "Oh, downtown brewery district, chancy."
Yeah.
But honestly, if that did not happen, we would still be there. We'd still be happy. But
right around that time too was for the fires when Procreations was starting to do their little build out.
That's
right.
right.
Things are starting to click, and we're like, oh, we're gonna have a slamming neighborhood. This is gonna be so much fun.
Yeah.
The Zacks were planning on moving in with us.
Oh, that's right.
And it was just gonna be the gang. We're all here. It's so fun. And unfortunate happens, but we pivot and we change, right?
That's exactly right. And I feel like there's there's the common trope of adversity. You either grow from it or you stagnate because of it. And I feel like if ever there was adversity, you pair COVID with a freaking arson in your brewery, and Grayview Brewing is still around, and it's like it's just wild to me. Now we are going to get to a quick break here. But before that, there's one more question I want to get to. Again, handful of questions now, but we're going to get to more at the end of the show. Joshua Glazier, I feel like it fits in here. Joshua Glazer asks, what specific educational or training experience did you find most valuable in enhancing your knowledge and skills in the industry? He says, I'm about to start my master's in brewing science from Auburn, and I didn't even know they had a brewing science program, and was curious if you thought it would be beneficial or overkill. I think that's such an interesting question.
I love that question because I would say if you have the opportunity to do it.
Do it, right? Yeah.
Why not?
Absolutely.
And if it's passionate, we were in the fortunate surrounding of a lot of professional brewers, I should say,
right.
who coached us along the way.
Yeah.
And they were very share. And we still are learning every day, we don't have everything under our belt yet. So,
Like I said,
it's a progression.
Yeah.
But to get that formal education and learn the hard science behind it, I think it's invaluable.
It is.
It's interesting to me too, because there's I like you. Did you go to grad school?
No.
You're not missing much. What I learned through my education, it felt like it lasted forever. And I look back now and I'm like, God, that was a blip. But it was just so laborious. And part of the reason for me is that I'm an in vivo learner. I need to get my hands in it to learn, and something like being a clinician or a physical therapist, you have to get real education because you could hurt people if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
But man, once I got out into the world of psychology and I became a practicing clinician and I was doing that, is where I feel like the knowledge really came. And in a weird way, that's kind of an analog to what you guys, it seems like, have done. And you have, maybe it wasn't intentional. I'll be curious to hear, but it seems like there's been this intentional slow burn. Like we're just going to let this grow into what it becomes and see where it ends up. But we're going to do it. But let's follow it as opposed to making it follow us in a weird way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a type of people who, they hit the books and it makes sense to them, and it really is in progress with where they're going. Versus some of us, we need to get our hands in there and on. And the applied learning is the kind of the school system I grew up in. It's like, everything was hands on, and we taught ourselves, and we did it through experience. And so some of it, we make mistakes, right? So that's part of the learning process. But when you have a group of professionals around you that can kind of knock down those things,
And we'll Fresno used to get made fun of. You guys know this for being kind of the beer desert. I think we're better than Los Angeles now on that front.
We got a lot of beer in town now.
We've got so much beer in town, and it all happened in the last decade. I mean, I would say that, Tommy leaving Tioga and starting House of Pendragon, I think, was hugely inspirational for a lot of people. And their success also proved that it can work here. And I don't know if Tommy thinks of himself that way, but when I look at it, I'm going, well, you were kind of one of the starters of that piece of it. Obviously, Tioga, Sequoia, Kevin, and all of that were the progenitors of that whole thing. I don't think we would have beer in the valley the way we do if it weren't for Kevin. Butterfields, exactly.
Right?
And was the 80s? Jeez, I mean,
that was 88. Yeah, 87, 88, I believe.
Yeah,
that was like when the only next thing going on was like in Chico, right?
Yeah,
Sierra Nevada.
That was it. Yeah,
they were trying to be that big.
Yeah,
and it was kind of that race.
But and what's crazy is Chico's about the size of Fresno.
Yeah,
but you had a completely different business model and doing things differently, and Sierra Nevada is obviously what it is today. But man, your guys' story, we've gone through a lot of the history side of it. I guess what we'll do to finish this segment is our first time meeting, because I only learned today that little Jay never made it to my other house. I have memories of you being there.
Oh my gosh.
I apparently just made that up. But Jason Hatwig, you came over all the time. You were at my house. I think it was like 2016. So right around the time you guys were doing this stuff at Tioga, and I was neck deep in brewlosophy at this point, so I wasn't competing anymore. I didn't have time to do any of that. I was brewing to collect data, and so I'd send out these texts or Facebook messages like, hey, if you can make it over between 1 and 4 o'clock today to my garage, and they would always devolve into just drunk fest with people bringing food and having a great time. But you shared a very special beer with me that I told you I did not have high hopes about, because it was a lemon verbena. Is that what you would describe?
Verbena.
Verbena. Am I saying it right? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So lemon verbena beer, and I remember
it was a keloid beer.
Keloid.
You would come over, either you were still there after everyone had left, or you were there before everyone had shown up. I forget. and you pulled out a bag of like leaves. You
Yep.
rubbed
Fresh
the
verbena leaves.
and I was like, what is this nerd doing? And it was so good. And I don't remember talking to you about going pro or anything then.
Right.
But you were kind of in that slow burn phase of it.
We're gonna bring that beer back too. Really,
It was so
one of the
good.
next
And
runs.
I mean, I'm sitting here drinking. This is my third glass of hazy IPA, and I'm not trying to butter your buns. It's like you guys do it right. I love it.
Thank you.
But man, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We've focused on your experiences leading up to actually starting the brewery. We talked about the incubator and 411. When we come back from this break, we're going to go from that point forward to where you're at today.
Perfect.
Stick around.
The dry yeast revolution is here, and Cellar Science is leading the charge. Cellar Science has expanded the world of dry yeast far beyond the drab landscape of yesteryear. With over 20 strains of beer and wine yeast now available, you can brew any style. Not to mention that their unique growth and harvesting process greatly increases lipid levels in yeast cell walls, removing the need to aerate your wort on the first pitch and allowing you to directly pitch without rehydration. Couple that with the other advantages of dry yeast, such as higher cell count and viability, and you can clearly see why commercial breweries across the U.S. are using dry yeast and choosing Cellar Science.
Chilling wort can be a chore, especially after a long brew day, but not with the exGEERience Counterflow Chiller, which can chill a 5-gallon or 19-liter batch of wort in 5 minutes or less, leading to a strong cold break and clear wort in the fermenter. Brewlosophy's Matt Del Fiacco uses the exGEERience Max and absolutely loves it. In addition to improved chilling efficiency, every exGEERience comes with a 5-year warranty that covers the entire chiller for manufacturer defects. If you're looking to up your chilling game and a CFC is right for you, head over to exGEERience.com today. The best beer requires the best hops, which Yakima Valley Hops provides fresh from the source to brewers around the world. Find everything from classics to modern favorites, as well as cool experimental varieties and a vast array of ingredients and gear at YakimaValleyHops.com. Over the last 2 decades, I've started a couple side businesses, but neither were really intentional for me, at least. I started doing something to either help myself or that I just thought was fun, and Brewlosophy being one of those, or that like people benefited from or enjoyed it. And I feel like because of the feedback that I would get from other people, I'll just focus on Brewlosophy at this point. It inspired me to do more with it. And then eventually, though, it would start. These opportunities would arise where we could actually make a little bit of profit off of doing this thing, which we're investing so much time in, anyways. You see where I'm going with this. And then for me, it was like, I guess this is a business now. And my wife, I'm so fortunate that she's a CPA. She knows the money side of things. I don't have to deal with that stuff. Well, I do, but not the way that a lot of people would have to if they didn't have a CPA for a spouse. And that's what it was. And the next thing I know, I'm hiring people and we're doing things and we're bringing on sponsors. I feel like you guys kind of went that route a little bit, just based on what we talked about before, that it was like this is fun. We're doing good. People like it. There's the feedback. We can make this a professional thing. And you were being influenced by outsiders saying, you guys got to go pro, man. Mm-hmm. And it was more than just your mom and your wives.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people, they hear their parents are like, oh, this beer's so good. Do it for a business. Let's talk about more of that side of things now. So Grayview is a thing. You guys are at the incubator. When 411 went down because of the arson, what did you go? What was your next step after that?
Well, we were homeless. I mean, I'll never forget the night we just walked into the brewery and the smell of smoke was just so intense. It was very emotional, and it was a complete loss except for our tanks. And we were like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, the brewing community is just so gracious.
The best,
I mean, Crow and Wolf housed our tanks for months and did our first collab with them. It was the Gray Wolf, which was there last night for their 4-year anniversary. Bless them. And they want to do it again, which is awesome. But we were in no man's land. I mean, we were talking to Roger at Pine and Palm about maybe a secondary place. We actually talked for a hot second with Crow and Wolf before they now have expanded tremendously. But we were just kind of...
Even that day of after the fire, we fortunately the tanks made it, but we we literally filled up kegs, and the bottles that we had in the cold room were still cold.
Rauk beer, I imagine.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We called it Out of the Fire. Actually, Kurt from BC named it. Yeah.
Those survivors of the fire were sold that next day. Everybody's like, we want to support.
I remember.
All the local, bars that were regular customers.
I had some.
They completely just backed us.
Yeah.
And so we were able to raise a little bit of money there, plus a couple of collabs and things that helped us kind of get some attention on the matter.
Awesome.
But we eventually, over a long
it's
not a long break. How long was the break?
Well, it was just
It was
about
a
a
whole
year.
Yeah.
Was there insurance? Did you guys get insurance money?
None. We didn't have any brewery insurance.
No.
And so we lost.
We had
our cold
basic
room
insurance, but not for that. Because those things are all perishables. Like, so you start doing the math. There's probably in just hops and grains and stuff in there. There's 4,000 or 5,000 there. Then your kegs, and then
I'd imagine it was a couple tens of thousands of dollars overall.
Absolutely.
Easily,
lost. Man, what a pain! What a painful experience. God.
But like Phoenix out of the fire, we and it's actually a really fun story. And I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. Our friends. Now, Summer Fox, prior to that amalgamation, and originally
prior to that,
I can't wait to get to that piece of the story, because that's the most recent part of the story.
Absolutely. And this is so when Rocket Dog started in, was it 6-7 years ago? Big J
music with Sarah back then.
And so from church, and I would say Big J knew them more than I at the time, but they were starting this, gourmet brats and craft beer. What a great concept!
It was amazing,
but they didn't really know the craft, and so they brought on Big J, and I was on his coattails of like, hey, well, what type of beer should we have? And so, very instrumental on starting the craft influence of Rocket Dog. Rocket Dog expanded up by House of Pendragon on Knees and Willow.
I was there
back
at
in the
least
day.
once a week. They had a crazy great craft selection.
Absolutely.
Pliny the Elder on tap. Are you kidding me? It was awesome. Yeah.
We were able, those early years, they're like, what do we put on tap? And I was like, let me help you.
Let me have this.
So I helped them select their first one, get them entered into like who some of the local distributors are.
Yes.
And like go with these. It's so money, and they did, and then they just flew. I think I only had to help them the first 2 months, and then they were locked in.
They got it.
Yeah. I remember when Mike Griffith did the tap takeover at the Sean Blackstone,
Firestone Walker.
Walker,
that's right,
and at that one night, a Michelle Guevara was working with Mike momentarily for Hot Flash.
It's amazing.
And then she went on to Goldstein's and now Backyard Social. Yeah. But like you said, Marshall, the community is so small.
I love it.
It is.
And we, like Big J said, it's like we're not the black, we're not the white, we're the gray. We're the Grayview.
Oh, I love that.
We will see you in the middle always. With their success with craft and the brats, they're like, oh my goodness, let's consider opening a brewery to make the beer for our locations. And at that time we had bought a tank from shameless plug, Craftmaster Stainless.
Yes. I'm wearing their hat
right now. You're welcome, Ryan, Dave.
Good people.
Very good people. And we, in essence, in all humility, I think we introduced them to the Central Valley.
Oh, cool.
And so we have a great relationship with them. We bought our tanks from them, and Rocket Dog opened up Amalgamation.
Right? I love
I did not know that. I did not know that.
So over on Santa Fe, Milburn, and Herndon, Amalgamation opens. And I think Sarah's brother was working for Gallo, home brewer as well. Hey, we've got a brewer in the family. Great, let's do this.
There's a Brewlosophy tie in there as well. You guys know this with Ryan,
Ryan Hansen?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, of course,
Ryan Hansen.
The softly put, it didn't work out.
No.
They were having problems securing a consistent brewer. Towards the end, they called Jay and I, hey, we've got 2 tanks full of beer. What do we do? Our brewer's no longer with us. And so...
be right there.
We'll be right there. And so just as you said...
I'll break it down for you. What you got?
We have hearts of a servant. We're here to help. But
I'm going to need another glass to analyze that.
So, in essence, it saved $20,000 in essence, right?
So you took their gear.
No. That was when they were just down and trying to figure out what they got. We jumped in and helped. and got them through this really just rough period until they were able to secure their current. And then Ryan Hansen too kind of jumped in to help. And
It was in the same time frame.
Eventually over time they got our amazing head brewer Alex Van Horn, who just made a world of difference, because back then they might have 6 of their own beers on 26 taps.
At Rocket Dog, you mean?
Yeah,
at Fresno.
At Rocket Dog and at Amalgamation, even at the point at that time. They only had maybe 6 to 8 of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was still like a guest tap, so we had guest taps there and all that. But
Not
over
yet.
time, yeah, right. They got Alex on, and Alex just like blew it up and had the full thing, like where there were no more guest taps. So. Yeah.
Well, and a little history on Alex Van Horn, too. He had his own brewery in San Diego called Intergalactic for about 8 years.
An amazing little brewery.
His wife, Courtney, moved to the Central Valley to work at the Cat Haven.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what ultimately brought them to the Valley. Alex worked a short stint at Full Circle and then was brought on to Summer Fox, or Amalgamation at the time, which, another fun story, Amalgamation had a cease and desist from the brewery that had the beer called Amalgamator.
Yeah, of course they did.
And so just like Black Ops to TAC Ops here locally, they changed their name. And some of our friends are like, I don't get what's Summer Fox, and I don't like it, and that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion. But when you think about Rocket Dog, then when they were having to change the name from Amalgamation, the original owners, their last names in their respective languages is Summer and Fox.
No way.
Yeah. You didn't know this?
I did not know this.
So think about that. Both canine and origin. I think it's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Are you
Rocket Dog,
right?
Summer Fox.
Summer Fox. It is so. So I also didn't know that Rocket Dog was Amalgamation was Summer Fox.
Oh, yeah.
I'm learning a lot here today. I like, this is just me falling on my sword. I am so deep in the brewlosophy stuff now that I don't have as many. I feel fortunate to have the friends that I do, that I got plugged in, like with you guys and Brad and Tommy when I did, because I hear, like, when Two Dudes opened up, I was like, how sad that I don't even know who these guys are. I met them after the fact, and when they were Zone 9, and had a great time up there hanging out. I know Mike, we judged together back in the day and stuff.
Sure.
And, but that community, it's funny, I sit here talk with you guys, and in my head I'm like, I got to do more local stuff, because this is what I love. The community, and I still feel like I'm a part of it. Not just locally, but like the greater brewing community. But man,
Absolutely.
the local stuff is where it's like the passion is at. You know what I mean?
It really is. That's one of our things that we really, really focused on, was the local side. And, it's hard enough out there if you're just trying on your own. Yeah. And so, even with like Rob at Machine Head, our one of our really great friends, his first day up, grand opening, we're like, hey, Rob, let's jump in there. We're going to help you on your day. Put us at a station. He put us on like looking at IDs and stuff, and we're any of our friends that open, if they're gonna get slammed, we are their help. And that's just kind of the
it's what you guys are known for. Locally is what
we'll jump in there and help.
For, yeah.
We did it for Crown Will too.
Absolutely.
They had a day where we were in line checking, putting wristbands on.
Yep.
And,
dude. I was serving beer. I was serving off the tap there, and
Day one.
Your community helps. And
it's amazing.
Trying to grow the craft beer community. We only, let's say 10 years ago, we had like 4, right? Now in the Valley, we have like 26 or more.
It's wild. And we're fortunate because I feel like we are the epicenter for the Central Valley brewing community. You've got Dust Bowl up in Turlock, and you go south, and I don't even know if Lengthwise is still around, but
they are.
They are still around.
Yeah. New ownership, and then Temblor, and
that's right. Temblor is down there.
Dionysus, and
that's right. Yeah. So that's like Bakersfield crew, and then but Fresno, I feel, is like where it's at right now.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I say this to my family and friends who, when they hear that I live in Fresno, and they scoff at it. And I think an overwhelming sentiment of Fresnans is keep scoffing. If you don't like it, don't come. That's fine. Right. Am I right? Right?
I have a story about that.
I like the scoffing.
I know.
I don't mind it.
Better.
I don't mind it. Like, if all you know of Fresno is what you saw off the 99, then I don't know what to tell you, because that's not what we got.
I got a great story for that, Marshall. But
tell it. Pray tell.
Oh my goodness!
You gonna tell it after?
Okay, I can tell it right now.
Go for it.
No, I'm not.
No.
I will continue the amalgamation.
Jason Hatwig.
Oh no, it's all good, Big J. It's all good. I appreciate your feedback always.
So then I'll do it I save you because you're going to tell me this after the show. But what I think is crazy is that people don't view, or maybe they do more so now than they did before. But Fresno has become kind of a beer destination now.
Yeah.
It's easy for people like me who talk into a microphone and promote things for money. I get that. To just talk up Fresno breweries and be like, oh, it's so great. I'm not lying about that. There are local breweries in town. I don't even want to mention one of their names that are awful. Don't get me wrong. They're not a part of the community. They don't contribute to anything productive. They get upset and butthurt when we talk about them. That's why I'm not going to mention the name. Do you know what our area code is here, by the way?
I
is
think
it
it's gonna change.
357?
357. Yeah,
change.
that's right. Yeah. No, but you.
Hey, right on cue.
Woo! Hey. Knock knock.
But you know what I'm saying, and I feel like it's okay, people. If you want to make a trip to Fresno, we got cheap hotels, really cool communities. You can go walk downtown to Clovis, and just enjoy that thing. And
speaking of Clovis, today there's a bike ride going on to all the breweries.
Trails
right?
and Taps or whatever they call it.
Pints and Pedals.
Pints and Pedals.
Pedals
That's right.
and
yeah.
Pedals and Pints.
Pedals
Sorry,
and
I got that
Pints.
reversed.
Pedals and Pints. That's
but
right.
yeah, I mean, it started this morning. Well, not this morning, like noon. Your morning. You're this morning when you woke
Oh my
up.
God. Yeah.
right?
That's a whole other story.
So, your morning, they started on their bikes, drinking, starting at, I think, Crow and Wolf, then Machine Head, and then all the way down the strip. And
Burning
then,
Sun and Cinerati, backyard, social.
backyard. And it'll end
ending up
tonight
at
Summer Fox,
Clovis.
Clovis. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Little plug, shameless.
I can't wait to get to that story. You know what? Let's move this. We have so much good stuff though.
We have a lot of stuff.
And I don't
Absolutely.
the reason I don't talk about that often is because I don't think people are going to believe me. They don't need to believe me. This place is kicking right now, man. We have still that feel that you had when you went to San Francisco 10 years ago. I feel it's like that in this area now, but in a different way, and in my opinion, a more palatable way. I'm not talking about palatable beer. I'm talking about the experience. It's just more down home. It's what Fresno gets made fun of for, but also what people I think like us love about it is that it is you make friends. The brewers still come out and talk to you.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that, in bigger cities, San Diego, San Francisco, stuff like that. I just think it's rad.
I love it when somebody who's a homebrewer brings in a bottle and just sits down and they're getting that attention at almost all our local breweries.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So okay, let's do this. We haven't hit on money yet, and we don't. I don't want to spend. I know the fun talk, but I know our listeners are curious. You had mentioned in the last segment profitability, and I am of the opinion that you don't do something because out of passion without making money for it, because that is the world we live in here, and part of that is that you gotta be able to pay the bills. You gotta.
Absolutely, Marshall. You nailed the nail with the hammer on the head, right? But I think we've all been there as home brewers. Oh my goodness, your beer is so good. Yeah. Are you going to go pro?
Yeah.
I'll be there. I'll be there every day of the week buying your beer if you just open a brewery.
You need to open a brewery. Oh my
doesn't
goodness.
happen all the time.
No.
Not everybody's going to show up every day, right?
The reality is that breweries are closing down
Yes.
in this market of wonderful craft is everything. No. And so it's one of those things where like our philosophy, and I said it earlier in the show, but our philosophy is you stay small and profitable. Small and profitable.
I love it.
Lean. Yeah.
Keep it lean.
Other caveat is your Budweiser big. If you're in the middle, you overextend. That is the recipe for not success.
For failure, yeah.
For failure.
Without a doubt.
And
I
we're
like
seeing
Coors
it all over.
Big, particular, not Budweiser Big.
Miller Lite, baby.
Banquet?
Come on now.
Okay,
love that
you
banquet
go there
beer.
too.
I've got
Oh,
plenty
man.
to share if you need
Yeah.
some.
So to talk about money, I mean, I think, when I do give seminars about PT,
Yeah.
to high school students and up and comings, like, hey, I want to be a PT. Well, how do you do it? Well, flip the coin. Well, how do you be a pro brewer? I mean, the first thing is, do you have something that's sellable and you can make money off of? Period. Again, your friends and family, unfortunately, may not be the best litmus test.
Just a tad biased,
They might
right?
be a little bit
A
biased.
little bit biased, yeah.
Right.
And so and as we talked about earlier in the show, then okay, enter some competitions. If you're really confident, enter some competitions, whether statewide, local, or what have you. You're winning. Okay, you got a good recipe. But to be a business, I mean, there's a lot of little details. First of all, business name, fictitious name statement. Yep. Okay, then I make money. You have to have a CPA. Well, you have to have your ABC license, TTB, a location. I mean, there's a lot of logistics that no offense, homebrewers, just don't know.
They don't know. We don't know. I should say.
And that's
if there was
okay.
only like a brand that could help them go pro, right?
Look, man.
like here's all the things you do here in Fresno County.
That's why we do these going pro.
Yeah.
You know?
I bet you can make some money on that. If I would have been able to just give somebody $1,000 to pay all the dumb tax.
Oh my God, dude!
Before I ran into it, all right.
Holy shit! I know. I get exactly.
There is a service locally, isn't there?
There is, yeah, right. But I mean, that's where the incubator kind of helped us out because Joseph already had that kind of up and going, and we were able to kind of navigate through that. But we literally started with about $5,000 each.
That's amazing.
Right.
And
that's nothing. That's a lot of money for an individual. That is nothing for a business.
Our particular game plan when it came to our scenario was to keep the day job because that's the daily bills.
Yep.
But also let's grow this on its own merit. So we didn't have to, other than time, really inject much more dollars after that. Right. It was all let's get a couple of tanks,
equity.
True that.
Yeah, let's get all the bills in line. I had the painful process of doing the allocation of the quarterly taxes, but all that added up. Grayview built itself on 2 interjections of $5,000. Everything else was sweat equity after that.
That's crazy. So you guys didn't have any outside?
Nope.
Well, I will say my blessed father invested into a beer trailer, which is available for rent, by the way, people.
That's true.
A beer trailer? Hold on a second. This is
mobile refrigerator. Yeah. You don't know about my beer trailer?
If you told me, I was probably drunk.
My goodness.
Dad put us up on that even before we were pro.
Oh yeah.
We were able through ABC laws, through nonprofits, homebrewers could donate their beer to an event that happened. So we were going to
May
wineries
I do a click,
and doing
click.
all this.
Homebrewers, note to self.
Click.
This is very important. Listen to me.
Yes.
You listen
to
it.
You listen.
No. If you get a day license, homebrewers can what, Big J?
You can work with a nonprofit to help them gain money. You might get some tips here and there. But
that's right.
You know what? Get out there, get your stuff tested. It is a great opportunity to get the feedback of the public.
Yeah,
beyond your friends, beyond your family.
That is a huge. We had our friends.
You're donating to an amazing cause.
Yeah,
and getting valuable feedback,
and getting your brand name before it's even.
Hell yeah, that's my thought too. That's free marketing, is what that is.
We were involved with several nonprofits. One being Transitions Foster Agency. Our good friends Brian Van Ann.
Amazing.
The Quails Club out in.
The Pheasants Club.
The Pheasants Club, which is the Delta. Also, our great friends at Moravia Winery, they did a beer garden for us.
They would let us have this roped off area of the beer garden. We'd have to be we can't take beer over there. It's got a whole beer garden. But this little trailer kind of got us a little visibility, and it was fun. And we got to learn how to work with taps and customers and everything. And, we were able to interject funds into wonderful nonprofits. And by that, we came in running with already a fan base.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Like you said, very unique story.
I feel like part of the uniqueness is the slow burn and willing to kind of go where you feel you're being pulled. Yeah. It's just a fascinating thing. So I want to move away from the money stuff because I don't think it's terribly fun to talk about. It's kind of boring, but I know it's important. So, patron Jim did ask, who invested, SBA loans, how did that tie into the timeline of getting your alcohol license, food serving permits, yada yada. You already explained that. It sounds like it was that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy, unheard of in the world of professional. We had Crow and Wolf on to do a Going Pro 3 years ago. $2 million is what they raised and they are a different kind of a brewery. They
Absolutely.
are the biggest in the Central Valley right now, I think.
Like we said, either stay small or go big.
Blast
Crow
it
and
out,
Wolf
yeah.
is definitely
Oh, they
on the
big.
go big model, and they're killing it.
They're killing it.
Now, our current scenario comes with existing loans and stuff, as we did our merger and all that.
I want to move into the merger because I think it's fascinating. So when you talk about profitability now, I think we don't need to talk numbers. I know people are uncomfortable with that, but you still have day jobs.
It's $100 million.
$100 million.
Yeah, God, I would love that. Shit. No, but it's. Is there at the very least? I think for somebody who's looking at brewing, and your hearts are in this. That's obvious. If somebody's hearing this story right now, going, "Man, what an interesting pathway they took to doing this thing that they loved and continue to love," I think is important because we have this whole thing. In psychology, we call it the over-justification hypothesis. So this idea that when I start getting paid for something that I once enjoyed, I start enjoying said thing as much. I don't feel that with you guys. I certainly haven't experienced that with Brewlosophy. It is work now, but it's work that I really feel is meaningful, and for me personally, maybe not for people out there, but is like really enriching. Would you agree that it's not? I mean, you got to make money, you got to pay the bills, but the passion part of it, is that what is? Speak to me about both of those things. The conjunction of those two.
It's what drives us. I mean, the passion side, and again, like Jay had stated earlier, if it wasn't for our families that were like totally like super cool what you're doing this, but you got to make time for vacation once in a while and stuff, because our lives are entangled and all kinds of busy, and so we have to make sure there's a balance there, but 100% is like, if it wasn't for our spouses to see that in us, that passion, and want us to have, it's not just a hobby anymore.
No,
it's not even a hobby job anymore. It's like a full job. But they're believers too in what it is, because they hear it from people and see it from people.
Right.
And so it's more than just what I think is cool. It's actually other people think it's cool too. Yeah. And that's what really motivates me. And we really are into kind of getting the community together, getting a whole, nonprofits fed, like all kinds of things that we have a long list of things we want to do in the beer community that we haven't even scratched yet. But we now finally get to the stage of potential opportunity.
That is such a good way to put it, because I think anybody looking from the outside like me sees where Grayview's at right now and is going, "Oh, here they come." It's happening. That's how I perceive it. Your guys' is merger the right word to use here? Partnership maybe, or
acquisition merger?
Acquisition merger.
Is that
kind
what it
of
was?
like New York, this and that. It's interesting, that segue. It's like, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah,
I did not see this coming.
Did not see this coming.
Yeah.
We didn't see the first thing coming, becoming roommates with them either. They just surprised us. They're like, "Hey, we like you."
Did we write this script? That's a great segue, Big J.
Right.
So after the fire,
post fire,
It's like a Nelson song. Oh, yeah, it's after the rain. I'm sorry.
So right, yeah. Summer Fox, now from Amalgamation, took over the Ish brewery in Clovis and Gettysburg. And so, well, you just touched my hand, Big J.
he's realizing how happy he is to
I
be
know.
partner with
Well,
you.
don't cry.
I'm not going to cry.
Jay.
It's
Why
emotional.
Are you trying to cry?
I'm
Don't
fiddling
touch
with my mic. But so we got called to go to now Clovis, Summer Fox, and hey, we want a meeting with you. We're like, all right. So
Just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And again, we've been friends still
of
since
course.
even Amalgamation and doing all that stuff with them. But and AVH, Alex Van Horn is there, and we had gotten to be good friends with him through the Guild, which is another great thing in the Central Valley that is only even getting better. But all four owners were there, and AVH, and they're like, "Hey, we want to have a conversation." And we're like, why?
We're like, "Oh man, do we need to move again?"
That's what I would be worried about.
Yeah.
What bad's coming from
we're
this?
homeless at this point still, and we're like, so
there's
again,
a second. Right.
So at this point, this is like we want to discuss an opportunity with you guys. We're like, huh?
Yeah.
What?
Like the sounds of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we had such an amazing
Opportunity, we call it.
opportunity.
there we go, yeah.
We had such an amazing relationship with Joe and everyone at 401 when we were in the incubator. So they're like, hey, we were thinking about doing a sour program here in Clovis, but we don't think we're going to do it. And so the brew house, 7-barrel brew house, which is twice as big as we had in downtown, it needs someone to brew on it. Would you guys want to be a tenant here? We're like, what?
When was this? This is like in the last year.
This is the end of 22. So about November.
Yeah. A year and a half ago. Yeah.
So it's just not quite a year after the fire. And so we're like, oh man, we have our day jobs.
Yeah.
We can't necessarily pay rent
Yet.
yet.
We got to raise capital.
Yeah. So
But
it's
we'll,
like
we'll give you beer and hugs.
exactly. You know,
Maybe we can trade and maybe we can do some things.
Yeah.
That
but
makes
they're
sense.
proposing this to you
Oh, yeah.
because they want help paying for this stuff. Is that what it was?
Well, it was a brew house that was just inert. No one was
Unused,
using
yeah.
it.
Yeah, okay,
The initial
got it.
plan was to do a sour program, but Alex like, nah, I'm got my hands full in Fresno. So, long story short, we penned a very mutually beneficial rental agreement, and we hit the road as Grayview as a tenant of Summer Fox.
Incubator number 2, basically.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Basically, it was like an incubator.
Again,
Basically-
a host and tenant setup just like the prior.
Yep.
No way.
Because we'd been talking to them about that over the years, and they were kicking those tires on that in the Fresno location at one point.
That's right.
And we were already tied up, but when the opportunity came, and we were just we were out of space. We had no idea what was going on. We knew we wanted to get back in. They kind of read into that, and they threw out the opportunity, and we were like, what?
Jump, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And it was awesome. I mean, no offense to our roommates in 411, but when you share a house, I mean, you remember that roommate back in college, right?
Oh,
Didn't do
God,
his
yeah.
dishes, let's say. Now
That
we have
was me all the time.
about
We-
that.
So filthy.
Oh my God.
I still have that roommate, Jay.
I had a roommate. This is just a funny side story. I had a roommate who was filthy, but he paid the highest rent, so he had the whole upstairs was his domain. But he'd like leave top ramen in. So one time, Kyle, if you're listening to this, I still love you, brother. He put top ramen in the sink one time, and he never washed it. And my other roommate and I, Tim, all of us were in a band, and so that's why we moved in together. The band did not work out. Don't live with your bandmates. But Kyle, it got all moldy, and Tim and I just refused to wash it for him. And so one day I go and I put it on his hamper, which he kept at the bottom of the stairs, so he could just throw clothes down into it.
Nice.
Well, he did that, and it knocked the freaking moldy top ramen over. It would piss me off as well.
Yeah.
I get it. I was gone, thankfully, and apparently he came down, with a samurai sword. I get home, and my friend Tim's like, "Dude, I'm glad you weren't home. He came. I think he was going to try to samurai kill you." He was so pissed that I did that, and so yes, I can relate with the roommate thing. Anyways, yeah.
So it's
Are you sure it was mold? Because it could have been a healthy pectile creating really nice sour.
use that to brew some, bro. Do you even sour, bro?
Yeah, do you even sour?
Yeah, it was sour, bro.
Oh man. So here we have this 7-barrel brew house. And just a little side note, the Ish team bought their brew house the same time along with South of Shaw.
Oh, okay.
So it was a Chinese brew house,
Yep.
which again, I mean, every brew house has its issues, which we had to learn over the last couple of years, but now it was like, oh my goodness, here we are. We doubled our size. We were able to sell our 3-barrel unit tank from Craftmasters and upgrade to another 5 or a 7.
A 7,
So we had 5 and a 5 and a 7 now, so 17-barrel capacity in our
We
unit
started
tanks.
flipping stuff and trading stuff. Our old water heater.
Our old water heater. We
right?
donated, actually traded with 3 stacks in a rock from Morro Bay.
Oh, geez.
Chuck.
Yeah.
He then blessed us with our glycol chiller as a token of great faith of trade. Yeah. Dude, I'm
you
telling
guys have the weirdest story.
relationships
this doesn't
matter,
happen
man.
They matter, and I feel like you guys. That was a squeaker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I feel like you guys embody that. Like there's the connections are going to pay back without expectation, though. It's not like I'm going to be friends with.
Right.
3 stacks in a rock or whatever, and they're going to give me stuff. No, you were friends because you're friends.
Oh, no, the funny thing is, he was going to charge us for the glycol. He really was. And then I'm out the door, getting into the trailer, like, well, I don't know if we can afford that. He calls me. He said, dude, just come get it.
That's amazing.
Turn
was
around,
so
come
cool.
get it, right?
Came back,
What
drove
the
around.
heck?
And yeah.
Does that not inspire you to want to be more like that, though? Because I feel like
100%, yeah.
I have a thing. I don't talk about this often, right? Especially in the beginning of Brewlosophy, it would somehow businesses would somehow get my address, my home address. Like I don't know how they got it. I imagine it's not hard to find for 20-year-olds, but I'm older than that. And stuff would just show up at my house, and I'm like, oh, well, what do I do with this? I am not, just because they're giving it to me doesn't mean I'm gonna pretend to like it.
Right.
But if it's decent, I still do it to this day. If I get something sponsored that I no longer use or don't want, I give it away.
Yep.
I don't sell it. I refuse to make money off
Right.
of it. It's just, and so there are, if you look throughout the Central Valley homebrewing world, there's like the Brewlosophy stamp on so many things that people have.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want to, it just feels skeevy to me. But then I look at myself and I'm like, man, I want to be more like the people who gave you glycol, just like actually spending money on it, because that's all free stuff for me too,
We had some roll-ups, but we also have lots of that same kind of thing back, out in the industry. I mean, one of our latest friends, Kim and Ricky over at Hop Shock, they're in Madera. They're brand new to the industry, just got their license.
Up in Madera, you said?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're out in Madera. They don't have a
Super
tap
cool
room,
girls.
but they're we've been great friends together for a long time, and they consult us like, what do we do? We want to do it small, and so we're like, do it small, grow it, and they're doing it exactly in a similar way. Well,
Really?
but they're able to do it on their little ranch and everything, which is great. Produce out there and then sell 1 keg at a time out in the industry, build their platform and all that. But if they had not consulted where we had been and we didn't have that information, where would our friends be? Of
Exactly.
course, we want to jump in there with all of our friends, and if they're learning, we want to help them, again, not pay all the dumb tax. Some of it we didn't have to pay, right? We
right.
had the intro, and we just want to return that gift to every single home brewer that we know is getting into the system. Talk to your local breweries, because
You've got to be friends with them. If you want to be successful, you've got to be in with.
Well,
with
even
your
in the
locals.
beginning,
Yeah.
things that people don't think about is like, oh, I bought all these kegs. Oh crap, I don't have a keg washer. now they're borrowing my keg washer, right?
Yeah.
Or grains. Oh, shipping and a forklift. Oh my word, where am I going to do that? So we had to rely on a lot of our industry friends early on to even source our grains. They drop a pallet off, and then we go throw it in our vehicles and haul it back. And we were fortunate enough to have those people that were believed in our cause to help out in that level. So we're kind of the same back. We have a few startups that once in a while use our keg cleaner. And there's a couple of people we know that we get their shipments and they come pick it up. But that's the industry, man. It's a community.
Yep.
It's amazing. All right. So safe to say that this is amazing. We've been drinking. I mean, we've had 5 cans now.
Yeah.
On the
Can't
we're
even
sharing.
tell.
It's 5 between 3, so we've each had 1 and a quarter can basically.
This one has a story.
I can't wait to hear it,
Dark
'cause
Dynasty, right?
It
here.
is really. I taste the strength. Is it strong?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
10.7.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
11.1
11.1
ounces.
Oh,
10.7%.
Yeah,
Bourbon barrel aged
ounces.
Sonoma County Distillers. Thank you for the barrel.
Oh, I taste the barrel. That's
Yeah.
what I'm getting. It's delicious. And we could talk more about the beers in a minute. We've had some. We talked quite a while about the Orange Julius one, but the other ones have been excellent. My favorite so far is the Bindbreaker, but you know that I don't do hazies, and I'm sitting here chugging these hazies with you guys. That Bindbreaker is freaking awesome. Business plan wise, when you're going in to start a business, none of my businesses that I've started, they've all been homegrown. Like I said earlier, I've never had a business plan because I didn't need one. Part of a business plan, whether it's small or a bigger one, is projecting into the future and kind of presuming where you're going to be or where you want to be. I feel like that doesn't work with your guys' model. Did you have a business plan?
Kind of.
Did you really?
Well, so our business plan was a 5-year outlook of we're going to do this particular linear thing and see what happens. And then the fire happened.
Right.
And that threw a wrench
Yeah,
into the
right.
business plan.
Almost 3 years into it, right?
So when we got the second opportunity, it's like, okay, we're going to pick back up on that. We're now roommates again with a wonderful brewery and
Summer Fox.
Summer Fox.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, let's give it 2-3 years, see what happens. Because there's always the progression of like, how much do we want to grow? Do we want to start looking at rent, get our own spot? But we're like, hey, day jobs, we got this, but let's 24 months goes by so quick.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. And,
Tell me about it. Yeah.
how much can happen in that time. And so we're like, again, let's just like wait and see before we go the full pony. Now we have a long-term plan. We would absolutely love a little, very much like Jay Gray's beautiful little pub at home.
It's amazing.
We would love this cute little pub off the San Joaquin River somewhere, right? I mean, all the
guys.
magic.
I know, right?
Built out of stone, just has all the whistles and the bells.
Little
and just
freaking hobbit
super
hole.
cute.
It would be
hobbit hole.
amazing. I know.
You
I feel it, guys. I feel it in my
the
heart.
start of a disc golf course, the end of a disc golf course.
Let's
Could
go,
you imagine? Yeah,
dude.
right? I want that, right?
Yeah.
I want this.
Yeah.
Let me know if I can invest.
Yeah,
'cause
right, exactly.
I don't want to
So-
brew it, but I want to be
Yeah.
there for it. Yeah.
Just this crazy thing because, the valley specifically has such rich, like, we got this beautiful river. We've got, like, agriculture all around. We got a lot of really cool narratives to tell. And I feel like that every other city out there, like Bend or other places in, like, Washington, they get access to their rivers and stuff. There's commercial near it. There's people near it. We're
There's
very
usage. Yeah. We don't use ours.
We're really protected on ours.
Yeah, it's interesting.
We got to get people connected to this river and stuff. So long term, that was always our goal, is to really have this like outlook of we want to be one of the first on the river.
I just knowing you guys and knowing and learning about your story today, but knowing what I knew before. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I hope it happens.
I mean, did you say I hope not?
I hope it does.
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Because I just don't see how it doesn't with the approach that you guys have taken to all of this. And
So if any golf course owners out there want to kind of really do some cool things, and
Copper River.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
some
closest
little property on there.
Yeah,
you
dude,
know,
I'm telling you, yeah, something's got to. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
When you say last money question, when you say profitability, though, are you talking? I mean, obviously, this isn't quit your job's profitability.
Nope.
It's just paying for itself.
It's paying for itself.
Paying
Paying
for
for the
itself.
Sustainable.
taxes, paying for the ABC, quarterlies, paying our rent at this point. So it's paying for itself. We've, to this day, never taken a paycheck for the brewery, and we've always reinvested all of our profits back into it, whether at one point, Three Oaks in Clovis came to be... Actually, no, Kendra one morning was on Facebook and was like, oh, this place in Clovis down in Pulaski's selling these kegs.
Oh yeah,
They're green.
These, yeah,
they're,
right.
She's like, what is a quarter barrel? I'm like, oh, that's, it's a quarter barrel, honey.
Yeah.
Quarter of 31 gallons. But
Yeah.
so we went there and I'm like, oh, come on, honey. You can draw a mean mall rat, but come on now.
7.75.
But we go down there and it's like $40. I'm like, ooh, that's not a bad deal.
Yeah, $40.
And I said, well, I'm a home brewer and I'm looking to expand some kegs. How many do you have? He says, I have a lot. I'm like, well, would you give me a discount on if I bought a 20?
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'll be right back. I'm like, he was gone for so long. And he comes back.
You're
and
just
he says,
hanging out, like
chilling.
And it's
kicking
great.
it, yeah.
They got Three Oaks. They got the chalk paint. And it's kind of cool.
That's my
store
wife
there.
buys her chalk paint
Oh,
there.
man, yeah, exactly.
That's how I know of it. Yeah.
And so he comes back. He's like, all right, if you buy them all, it's $500. I'm like,
For all of them?
I'm like,
all.
well, how many? If I wanted 40, well, how many do you have? He said, there's a lot. Come over and see. I'm like, okay, $500.
150 of these things.
What?
Yeah.
That's a slaying deal.
Right. We
mean,
just ran into that deal. Like they were just out doing that, right?
That means you paid $2.75 per keg.
Quarter barrels.
Basically, yeah.
Are you? That's crazy.
Then we were able to take like 11 of them and flip them and pay for another thing that was on the list of.
That's your best profit to
things.
date, man.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it was such a blessing. Oh, my
Flipping
goodness,
is cool, man.
Flipping's cool, dude.
Well, and it actually
That's
comes
flipping
into
cool.
part of the value of what is in the next phase of our story.
Yeah.
Let's get there. 'Cause
Yeah. So we became roommates officially, I believe, November of 22.
Yep.
One of the first things we did was our Gravenstein Graf in a Chardonnay barrel.
I remember
which is,
that one. So good.
A really unique style that we do. That for all of you out there that are, what is a Graf? You say
That's Stephen King, right?
2 years ago, you did an apple infused with some character malts show.
Yeah.
That similar to what a Graf really is.
But I think you inspired that because you shared your graph with us.
Yeah.
But go ahead and explain because it's technically not a style. I mean, it's an invented style by Stephen King, right?
It's still a beer. So but under ABC rules, and TTP it's 51% grain sugars minimum. And then the rest can be whatever fruit or whatever. But this in the Graf world, it is apples.
Apples, yeah.
And there's some
Apples.
stuff that hits home in Jay's world where we secured the apples and all that through relationships and all that.
Yeah,
Gotta love that. Yeah.
I'm originally from Sonoma County, Petaluma, Pengrove, but
Lagunitas, what's up?
That's right. Penthouse.
That's right.
Fog belts. Old Cas.
Here we go.
Parliament. Sorry, love you guys. But an apple up there back in the day that's still there is called the Gravenstein. And it is an apple that is so famous to Sebastopol in particular, which is a Russian community. Sebastopol,
Beautiful community, yeah.
up there. And you have Hopland, all those towns up in Northern California that used to actually grow hops, which then turned into apples, which then turned into grapes over the years. But this Gravenstein apple is a very rare apple. It's doesn't have a shelf life of other apples like Granny Smith or Fuji, Gala. And so it's a very seasonal apple, but it's very sweet and tart at the same time. Makes the best pies, applesauce, apple juice. And so I grew up with this apple.
Shortest shelf life ever. 2 weeks.
Oh, it's worse shelf life.
Oh,
The worst.
I thought we were going the opposite.
No.
It's like,
Shortest.
it lasts forever.
That's
no.
why
Best
you
tasting or shelf
Yeah,
life.
so
Interesting.
it's not in the market.
I want one now.
Now
Yeah,
I'll,
right? Taste it so bad.
I'll
Yeah.
challenge
Wait
you.
till September.
You go to
Yeah.
you go to Trader Joe's or what's the other health food place in town?
Smart and Final or whatever.
Whole paycheck.
No,
Whole paycheck. Whole Foods. Yeah.
Either way, if you look at a lot of the apple ciders, look at the ingredients. Traditionally, mostly, if it's California, it's a Gravenstein.
Interesting.
Delicious. So homebrewers, you can take that. I mean, it's expensive, but you can take that and make what we're making. So I had the inspiration to, hey, I just want a single source. The only way that brewers can make a cider is this particular style, Graf, because of the 51-49%.
As brewers, yes.
Legally.
Beer brewers, yeah.
Unless you have your wine license,
Right,
cider
right.
license, you can't. And so it is that little nuance, and but it is the closest thing to a cider that we can make, but it's technically a Graf. But this Gravenstein apple, it has everything in one. Typical ciders, traditional ciders, whether it's a dry English,
High
it's
bricks
a blend.
on the sugar.
Yeah,
It's a blend.
Everything.
And what apples are it? It's apple juice.
That's right.
But this single source, I think it's the perfect.
It's the best
apple.
tasting, and then through that process, we were like, let's just barrel age this stuff too.
Yeah, right.
And so then you barrel age it in a wine barrel, mostly either Chardonnay or
We did a Pinot Gris once, and
what was the other one? Another C that it started with.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
We just did Chardonnay and
Chenin Blanc.
probably
To barrel age.
to barrel age it. Yeah.
Oh, come on. Let's
yeah.
go.
This last batch though was from our friends up in Napa, from Vice Versa, and oh my goodness, low production, high dollar, just high quality. Met him through my day job, and it turned out wonderfully. But it's wine forward characteristics. I mean, the Chardonnay came through so well, and then it's apple, and then at one time when we did it like champagne carved, and we served it with little flutes and
Hell yeah.
it was so
Grayview
fun,
flutes.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
I was thinking about when I had, because you gave me, I think it was 2 years ago. Was it 2 years? It might have been 4 years ago.
Could be.
Because remember we had the big 40-year bash. My wife does big birthday parties for me every 5th year. Dang. But there was at one point, anyways, you guys guys gifted me the barrel aged next to the standard graph, I believe is what it was. And I remember drinking those with my friends here going, I could have sworn I was going to hate this.
Yeah.
And they were shockingly delicious. Like if people don't know the story of graph, am I wrong on this? That it was invented by Stephen King. He made it up in, I forget what book it is, but he just invented the style and in the way that he writes so poetically. I think he's a great author. I love those stories. He's the one who like wrote about this stuff and defined what it is. And
I recall the mention of that, but I looked at the legal part of what a graph is, and then that's where I came up with that, 5149 is like, this is our barometer to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
But I do remember Stephen King, but I didn't know that he invented it. So that might be fun to like,
that's what I'm saying, dude.
More. That's cool.
You could do like a Pennywise graph. You could do a
right. Might have to reinvent how we do graphs.
I'm telling you though, I remember drinking those and just going, man, this is not what I expected. I think for better or for worse, maybe still in the beer flavored beer category of brewers and beer drinkers. There's something about the tradition, as much as we might buck tradition in our experimentation and stuff at Brewlosophy, there's still something about a good Pilsner or a good IPA or that I just find so appealing. So all this new stuff, Orange Julius beers, but you guys, and that's goes back to the lemon verbena thing, verbena,
yeah.
Where I remember watching you do this, and I'm like, this is the dumbest thing, and then I drank it, and I had to like admit my folly in that. I was like, dude, this is crazy good. Yeah. And didn't you like pick that off of a bush at your house or something?
It's verbena, not verbena.
Oh my goodness! Potato. I say potato. Yeah.
Well, and
go ahead. Lean into your
verbena, but back to the Groff comment.
Yeah,
when we went to Island Brewing in
California,
someplace
it's not an island,
right? No, Island Brewing Company in Carpinteria. Thank you.
Oh yes, yeah.
On the railroad tracks.
Yes, literally.
Not
on
an island.
Yeah. But one of the brewers there was like talked about a braggot.
Oh yeah.
So that braggot is the fruit infused particular style, wheat based, I believe. But and that's where I think the Groff braggot is similar in its vein. But where were we?
Well, here's where we're at. I was going to ask you a few more of questions that I've got.
Yeah.
Because so just to clarify, if people are cruising through the Central Valley and they want Grayview beer, you're looking for Summer Fox Brewing Company.
Absolutely.
But you can go in there and say, I mean, it's delineated, right?
It's all there.
Yeah.
Grayview beers. What Grayview beers do you have on? A really, again, very unique relationship and setup for a brewery that I think just works so beautiful. And given where we're at in the industry right now, I think we might see more people. If they knew that was an option, I think that would be. It's not. You remember back in the day, we would hear about gypsy brewers.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost
the McKellar. Yeah.
It's almost that a little bit. You know, that feel where it's like you're using other people's stuff, but it's your stuff and it's their stuff, and you're doing it together. It's more of a partnership is how I view it, and I just think it's really cool. So. We have a bunch of patron questions. The I don't know if this one is asked, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I am going to. This is going to be a little off the cuff because the questions are still coming in.
Are there any yes/no ones that we could just be like no?
Well, I can make them yes/no. Oh. Remember what I do for my real job?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I'm good at open-ended questions.
There you go.
Fantastic.
What would you say? I think I already know the answer because we talked about the fire and the arson, but what was the biggest hurdle? Because you guys are professional brewers at this point. I mean, it's a business. It's something that you guys are doing regularly. What would you say is the, like for other people looking at doing this, would be the biggest hurdles to kind of look out for?
Well, definitely one of the learning hurdles that we had, right after the fire, we felt helpless. We didn't know what the next step was.
Oh my God. I can only imagine.
Right.
And then, not having necessarily the insurance that would cover it, it creates this like, we got to rebuild. Now, thankfully, a lot of our equipment survived, so we were able to kind of bounce back quickly when the opportunity existed. But I would say if you know, plan on insurance and getting everything dialed, because if disaster strikes and you don't know where that's going to come from, you're done. It's wild. I don't, I see other breweries that have been through similar things, and it takes them years to rebound from that. So, after disaster, you need to have a game plan for disaster, in a sense, of having some measures in place. So that way, if it does hit, a big portion of your equipment that like might break down, a glycol chiller. We experience that all the time, where we're like, oh my gosh,
audio
the pump
interface,
went out. That's, right. Audio interface.
Right.
What's the backup?
So embarrassing.
Right.
Goodness gracious. I think that's good. Expect the best, accept the worst type of deal.
Yeah.
Or the opposite.
Does that answer the
Hope
question?
for the best.
Well, it was my question, so I think you covered it.
Wait, you
well.
were the writer of that question?
I wrote that. Can you imagine?
And again,
Can you believe
not
it?
knowing, you got to plan for the unknown. So insurance, which we didn't even think about. That is definitely.
We had a
something.
regular insurance. Oh yeah. Of course,
you learned the hard way. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just can't. I cannot. I can't even think about. That would kill me to see that somebody.
Well, do you have home insurance?
Of course we do.
Of course you do.
Of course we
Is
do.
this
You
your
get-
business?
Of course you get.
Then
right.
you have insurance.
Then you have
We
insurance.
didn't even think about that.
There's building insurance and stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily cover your equipment, and so
Yeah.
there's separate insurance and
Yeah.
policies for that. Of course,
brewery insurance and all that.
Of course, we had our annual insurance for your policy for if somebody drinks something to get sick or whatever.
Liability.
The
Yeah.
liability
Liability
is
insurance, yeah.
covered, but liability does not cover your grain loss, your hop loss, your anything. Like if your freezer goes out tomorrow and it's loaded with hops, and you're on vacation for a week, you come back and you're like, oh my goodness, I hope they survived. And what if they didn't? Who knows?
Yeah.
You got to have a backup plan for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, here we go. You guys have been awesome. These questions again, they're going to be random. They're coming out of nowhere. First one,
Bring it.
First, they're as a home brewer. These are fascinating questions to me, and I can see why they're asking them. So Chris Walgren asked, how did your yeast management change? We've had a few beers, so I'm slurring a little bit. When moving from home to pro.
Ooh, good question.
I love
see
that
what I'm
question.
saying?
So
Great.
I think we were a little bit ahead of the game in the sense of, again, a vial of White Labs is $8 to $10.
Yeah.
We're now 30 gallons, and the recipe asks for like 8 of those. You're like, oh frick, that's $64.
Yeah.
So we were propping early on.
We were
So we'd
propping.
get DME
Yeah.
and we'd prop up in our Erlenmeyer, and that's how we did
Yeah.
our yeast and saved a lot of costs there.
Even in the incubator, we were propping yeast.
In carboys or whatever?
So
Actually, the big liter
Yeah.
wasn't enough.
a whole liter
Yeah.
for a 3.5 barrel batch was
Yeah.
enough, and so we were able to prop through there, and then we started getting more and more relationships and chasing the yeast nuances. And yeast over time has really changed. Like so, back then, dry yeast was always like
taboo.
Poo-pooed a little bit.
Like,
yeah.
right? That's what you
Now-
make bread with, bro.
I
No,
know.
it's amazing. Science has done all kinds of
gosh.
stuff where like dry yeast is money right now.
AEB is putting out some crazy
Props
good
to AEB.
Yeah, props to AEB.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So yeast, obviously, I think when you talk to home brewers, at least, it's probably shared among professionals as well.
Yeah.
Yeast management is number one. I mean, you have to know what you're doing with the microorganism that turns your wort into beer, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So I get the question. Here's a fun one from Eric Pierce, good friend of Brewlosophy. Eric Pierce says, do you have thoughts on a kid-friendly tap rooms? I found that owners like the idea, but people running the tap room tend to hate the policy. What's your experience been?
Actually, I think works really well for our Summer Fox model. Dog friendly, family friendly.
That's
So
the
far
new
positive,
thing is pets and kids are fully allowed. We even have
Absolutely.
stuff for them.
Yeah, we got food.
We got
You know,
food.
that
Yeah,
helps,
yeah. I feel like part of the culture of where we live, the Central Valley, is very family centric. So it probably just doesn't feel the same in other areas as it does here, maybe. And that's because he's from Massachusetts. He's Boston area. And I just wonder if that's doesn't contribute to it a little bit, or if you're not going to go into Cellar Maker and see as many kids there as you do at Crow and Wolf or at Summer Fox or at Burning Sun.
I mean, we don't want to be a daycare by any means.
No.
But,
Sure.
Which I get, because there's patrons out there and there's a bunch of noisy kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Our places aren't so big to where we have kitty daycare going on, but the way we can kind of manipulate or work with that too is if we have a specific band that night or whatever, we can say, hey, this is an 18 and over night or 21 and over. Put it on social media. We can make some constraints, exceptions, whatever. But for the overall general thing, we want families to be able to bring their kids, have adult time out, hang out.
Yeah.
Most time their kids are occupied with the video game or the thing.
They're playing on their phone. They get free reign of their screen time when parents go to the brewery.
Right.
Yeah. We're totally in that camp.
My nephew, when he pops into the brewery with my sister, he's on. He gets the iPad time. He's playing Minecraft or whatever, and he's chill. He's no bother, right?
Yeah, I remember when Crow and Wolf was, before it started, Don and Matt and Brad would come over and we're chatting about stuff, and we'd be drinking beers or whatever, and one of the things I said was, if I were to start a professional commercial brewery, I love kids, I love family, like that's just something my heart is in. I would love to have an area where they can go and there's an Xbox and a Switch, and you're going to go through controllers, but imagine the experience those kids are going to have. Because we live in an oddly puritanical culture here in America. For as crazy as we are, we're driven by that puritanical kind of thing, and that has contributed to beer still holding kind of it's not a good for you thing. And I always thought, man, how cool to introduce our kids, which I think we all are family guys.
Yeah.
We all have kids. And my kids don't view alcohol as something that you use as a crutch. It's a social fun thing that you do, just like playing video games, and so to facilitate that level of perspective on it, I know there are people listening going, "Oh no, you're so stupid, you cheesy." No, I don't care. I want my kids to have a healthy relationship with these things, and that's why this question always gets me, because I think it's so interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
But if they see their parents are being responsible.
Yeah.
If they see that you're Ubering home.
Exactly.
If they see that there's
while having a great time and not yelling and screaming at each other and getting angry drunk.
The angry drunk. I've said this for years. I think your true nature comes out when you're drunk. Right?
I think so too.
And
I think so too.
I know this guy next to me is a happy drunk, and I'm a happy drunk.
You know how often
just
we hug when we're
right?
drinking?
Man.
The hugs just start to
I've
flow.
got videos from your birthday at Crow and Wolf.
Yeah, they're like, get a room. Right?
Nothing but huggers.
You're too happy.
Right. Yeah, little J and I. Oh my God.
But so having that healthy relationship with it, and again, just exposing our kids to that in a healthy environment, which is absolutely. So to answer that question, I mean, having a happy, family-friendly environment is critical. You go to places where it's like, no kids. You're like,
I don't want to be there. Yeah,
I don't wanna be there.
You feel that. Yeah, it's lame.
Yeah.
All right, Eric asked one more question. He says, half serious on this one. Did the Jasons have beards as home brewers, or did that happen after going pro? Is there pressure in the industry to have facial hair as a male brewer?
Oh my goodness, that is a fantastic question.
Glorious beards in the house today, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I trimmed mine. It just, I don't know, was that a couple months ago now?
Yeah.
I'm 10 months in.
That thing is huge. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was with Don last night saying, hey, before it comes off, let's get a portrait together.
You have to do it. You and Don.
Black and white.
Owner of Crow and Wolf, Don, has a equally as glorious beard as you
man.
do. But it's red. Actually, it's turning a little more white lately. Have you noticed?
It's lightening up.
It's like... All right, Eric, I'm not going to have them answer that question.
It took me I wasn't able to sprout hair on my chin till I was 26. So the second it came in full, I was like, I'm in, and
you're like, I have an excuse now. I'm a brewer.
It's a toy at this point. Let's be honest.
Without a doubt,
and it hides my double chin.
I got to work on that. I know. Victor Fernandez Gusso says, "Did you have a fallback plan?" I mean, again, we kind of addressed this, but in case the business wasn't what you expected or didn't work out.
Faith, trust, and pixie dust. That's,
Yeah.
that's what we had.
Also, day jobs.
Day jobs.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I mean, day job. If it did not succeed, then it wouldn't have, and I think we'd still be brewing together amateurly and,
Yeah.
until the next opportunity opened.
You know, people who know me, who have heard my whole life story, are often surprised that I'm where I'm at in my life today. A lot of adversity. We'll just put it that way. But I was talking to my wife about this a couple years ago, and I said, in a weird way, I have to appreciate the shit that I went through in my early life, because if I hadn't gone through all of that, not to say things are perfect, but you're not where you're at today without that stuff. That is an inarguable fact that
Right.
you are where you're at today because of every tiny little weird thing, good and bad, that happened. And so it's pretty cool for me, at least. And I don't want people to hear this the wrong way, but you look at like the arson, you look at COVID, you look at these terrible things, and how, like the phoenix out of the ashes, you grew from it. And I just think it's such a weird dynamic, but it's so cool to see it that way.
Let's talk about my day job. I've had 9 knee surgeries.
What?
So 3 ACLs and meniscus and screw removes, not out of my head, that is.
Lord.
But and so right on that, it's like I am not the therapist in my day job without those experiences.
Exactly.
I can empathize with my patients. They come up to me and you don't know what I'm going through. And I said, well, let me tell you about my past. But then it's that instant validation or that, credibility.
Exactly.
In a sense
Credibility,
where it's
yeah.
like, oh, wow, you have done this. And so everything happens in life for a reason, good or bad. But like you said, it just shapes the path you're on.
Exactly.
And we are on a fun path, and it's continuing to evolve.
Well, and I think that's the exciting part, is because there's going to be more speed bumps ahead.
Oh.
But how are we going to let those stop us?
No, the
Slow us down? They're speed bumps.
You can hear my phone right now. The speed bumps are happening right now.
Yeah, here we go.
That's the funny thing. You got 18 staff members.
I know. I've also kept you way longer than I told you I was going to keep
it's all
you.
good.
Let's keep trucking.
I know.
Yeah.
Keep on. I know. Open another beer. We got to.
Yeah.
I got one more.
Let's hit it.
That last one he had was the Dark Dynasty.
So good. So
This is
I
the
drank that
root-
one way fast.
This is the base root of our salty goat.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Without the salt,
Without the oyster
oysters,
shells.
So this we should just call this the goat, but no, we called it Dark Dynasty, and it was our first barrel age.
Because all of our beards. Not
Yeah,
the
all of our
duck.
beards. Like
The duck.
there's a sticker.
We
with
could
all
have
of
just
our
called it the
beards.
goat.
Yeah,
Right.
but no. But it's a nice barrel aged stout. It's not meant to be a dessert stout by any means, so it's got
Doesn't
a nice,
taste like it. Yeah.
right. It's got a nice mellow stout body.
Yeah.
Plenty of barrel. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
I
We had
love
some
it.
really good feedback from our friends up in Sacramento. Geist House. Have you heard of them?
I have heard of them. Yeah.
Yes. And and then Movement.
Movement, yeah.
Happened to be up there seeing my friend Brian, and we were talking about Austin Powers and $1 million.
Yeah, right.
He is a veterinarian cardiologist working primarily, not exclusively, with the hairless cats
Oh, really?
from Austin Powers, Dr. Evil.
Right.
And so we won't talk about the pictures he sends.
Yeah.
which is
Those are freaky looking cats.
super,
I got to be honest.
super hilarious. But
Yeah.
with that said, really good feedback from our peers up in SAC. And I was like, hey, it's not intended to be a dessert or pastry stout. It's Nottingham yeast. You've got the esters. It's thin-bodied but barrel forward. And they gave some really good feedback in the sense of, it's not as viscous as I'd like, and so on and so forth. But
I like them.
I like how
Yeah.
it reminds us of some of the stuff that early Firestone Walker
Yeah.
was barrel aging,
Yeah.
or even like when they had the collab with Maltos Falcons.
Oh,
and,
so good. Yeah,
all
that was
those,
a great beer.
Not everything has to be like a dessert thick stout. You can have a thinner barrel aged stout,
Oh, yeah.
and it's amazing. There's we got to separate those. Not every IPA is hazy, not everything is clear.
Right.
But in the stout world, we prefer this kind of medium ground with our own stuff. Now we make dessert stouts and all that too, but
Of course.
that particular one that we make every year is our favorite.
It's classic. It just tastes, and I'll tell you, to this day, the only oyster stout I've ever had is Grayview's oyster stout. And again, I think you shared it with me, and I pointed to Little J over
We'll
here.
get you the East Coast version soon.
Oh, really?
They use the whole
Meat
thing
and
with the
all.
protein.
They put the meat in there?
Everything.
Protein, head retention.
I
oh my gosh.
somebody here we are on another offshoot, but somebody told me one time when I was it was online, and I'm reading this. They were talking about oyster stout, and they were like, "Why not just use the liquor as the water as your brewing liquor?" So you use. Can you imagine?
Sounds fishy.
That's a fishy proposition. All right, we're way off. A couple more questions, and I'll let you guys get going here. Chuck H said, "Thank you for asking our questions." Well, you're welcome. Question 1 that Chuck asked is, "What is a question homebrewers may not realize they should ask themselves before pursuing, a professional career in brewing?"
Do you like to sleep? If you do, then
Don't do it.
don't do it.
Yeah, that's side business 101. Yeah.
Well, I would think too, okay, I want to go pro. Do you understand how much money do you want to make? Mm-hmm. And if you then say, I have X amount of expectation to provide for myself, and if you have a family, my family, and 401k and future car, and it goes limitless. And if you can sell enough beer to do that, then by all means
Do it. Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Great. But the reality is, how much does a professional brewer working for the owner make per year? Like 80,000?
80 if you're doing well. Yeah.
If you're doing really well. And
Yeah.
so, okay, but that's not the owner. When is the owner getting the quarterly dividends on the business?
Yeah.
So you really have to look at, okay, if this is, for us, it's been great because it's a hobby pro, which is amazing, and it will
pay back.
We are retiring to this at some point, and that's
I love hearing
the
that. Man, I love hearing
segue
that. Yeah.
into what offered the deal that we are now in.
Yeah. Again, I think I said this earlier. I often talk about my lack of desire to go pro, and somebody pointed out to me, what would you call brewlosophy? Well, yeah, I get it. I did. I turned the hobby into something that's a business. It's a legitimate business that pays taxes and does all that.
Right.
I remember talking with some friends. I don't want to get too deep into this about we had this idea. I say we because I was involved in the conversations, not my idea, to start a brewery that would be very brewlosophy focused. So you'd show up to the brewery and there would always be experiments, hop chronicles, short and shoddy. It would be a fun place to go. The idea was interactive, and some local friends, fans of what we were doing, had this idea, and they obviously wanted me to be a part of it. And I told them, I have zero interest in brewing on that level. I have zero interest in leaving my day job. I need to be, but I'm happy to provide funding for it and do all of this. And it's just like when it fell flat.
Yeah.
In part because as you start plugging the numbers, what my wife is, again, she's amazing with Excel, and she put the spreadsheet together, and you could enter one number and it'd be like down here, and she's like, that's negative. You see how that's negative?
Yeah.
She's like, you don't operate a business in the red. You got to be able to be profitable, and this business idea wasn't even a plan at the point, just doesn't work. And so I do think that's interesting. Next question from Chuck, though. He says, what is an aspect of the business side, speaking of business, of being a professional brewer that you found you enjoy? And I think he might be saying like enjoy more than you thought.
More than I thought. It's always the brew process is super, super, super fun.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That
That's
to
my
me would
favorite.
be like the most laborious, boring part.
That's my favorite part. But what's also fun is if you have a band that night or bingo or whatever, like we'll pop into any one of our 3 spots randomly, and karaoke night for instance, we're like, hey, let's get in there. There's only 3 people doing karaoke, and there's 30 people in there. Let's hype the crowd. Let's get in there. So we love walking into a room that needs a little guidance and just jumping in and just getting to know people. And the people side of it has been fun to us. Now that's something you have to plan for too. If you're an introvert and all you want to do is make beer,
Hire somebody.
hire somebody to do
You have
some
to
of
do
that
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because to make money in that world, you have to have some sort of entertainment
Without a doubt.
or a weekly thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people don't just drink anymore. They that level. They want to go for a purpose, a reason, entertainment,
For the experience,
The
yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Kids could get involved with bingo or whatever the scenario is. But that's the other negative side of the brew house. If you're not prepared to entertain people, you got to either farm that out or do something. You're having
Fake it
trivia
until you
nights,
make it, right?
Whatever.
But so true. I mean, you can make the best beer in the world, but if there's not an excuse to go there,
Exactly.
and,
Yeah, exactly.
and again, we're crafty snobs, all of us. Let's admit
Without a
it,
doubt,
right?
yeah.
But we are less than 5% of all beer drinkers,
Mm-hmm.
and so we are preaching to the choir. So you have to have those activities to bring the mom
The
and dad with the
newcomers.
stroller
Yeah.
to. Hey, I didn't realize you had activities. All we thought you did was beer, and for us, having food is another caveat that makes us unique in town, which is another draw.
Yeah.
To have
It's
that
a brew
food,
pub, yeah.
It's a brew pub.
Yeah.
And then having activities is that third kind of draw, which you got to have. You have to.
I heard someone explain it recently as whereas back in the day, the beer is what brought people in. Nowadays, and I think it might be a generational shift. I think because we're trying to target a younger audience now, younger than us at least. Yeah. That you've got to have something to bring people in, and the beer is there to introduce them to beer. Because it's a really weird way to look at starting a brewery. Because you kind of have to put a pin in the beer side of it and say, what are we going to do though to get people here? And because beer's not doing it these days, we know that everybody knows, especially now, and we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick. The shift is changing, it's shifting again, and I love that. But if you imagine if you're offering live music, things that people are going to do regardless of whether they drink or not. Kids can be involved. I remember when Crow and Wolf started off their karaoke thing and going there and seeing like a 12-year-old get up and just wail. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I like that. I want to see that. And I think I have a feeling that it's a very small minority of people who love to complain about. We were talking about this off the air, who love to complain about that kind of stuff. So be it. Leave. Don't come back. These kids, when they turn 21, are going to be coming back here to hang out.
Because they had a great experience at Crow and Wolf when I was a kid.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
At Summer Fox, at Grayview, at all these places, it's that. So
Some of us, like in the old school day, to pursue craft beer, you had to be this sort of elite person, and then you had to go drive and get it because it wasn't available to you all the time, specifically here in the Valley,
and wait in lines
and go to all the exciting fun things. And we all had club memberships and
all that,
and have amazing bottle shares. Still doing bottle shares, but had like all these crazy bottle shares. And then distribution kind of stepped up and started filling in those gaps, and now we can get that at home, and now it's an excuse to get out. And if I can get a bourbon barrel aged peanut butter something or whatever at my local grocery store, what's getting me out of my chair to go to any of our number of places that are just starting their barrel aged programs out. And now some of that hype is just not there. Now we have to care as a community to infill that more than going and just grabbing something at the grocery store. And unfortunately, like craft beer is changed so much in just 10 years.
It's crazy.
COVID happened. All the things.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's unpredictable. But what the industry is telling us right now is we have to have entertainment in things that just having great beer is not enough.
Which is so weird as people who got into craft beer when we did.
Right.
15, 20 years ago.
Right.
You used to drive for that.
And you didn't drive for the experience. You drove to taste the beer.
Yes.
Right.
That's just, I Pliny the Younger, now that they're Russian Rivers, but there's still lines because people want to go for the experience now of waiting in line, which I cannot understand for the life of me. I've had Younger many times. It's great. I would never wait longer than 10 minutes for a pour of it. That's just how I am.
Prior to that was Kern.
Same thing with
Citra.
Kern when they won.
Citra, you just drive up there if we were in the lottery and won our 12-pack.
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah. Anyways, fascinating stuff. I'm going to try to turn some of these questions into yes/no questions.
All right.
Oh.
And if you answer it and need an explanation, give it.
All right.
You say yes, I'll say no. How's that?
Okay.
What size brew house did you start with and why?
Yes. 3.5.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I tried. I couldn't.
It was a stout system. Yeah. 3 barrels.
Yeah.
And we had 2 5-barrel unit tanks and 3 But yeah. So 3-barrel brew house. Yep.
What are you brewing on now?
We are brewing on our 7, and we have access to the 10.
Perfect.
Brew house in Fresno. So
Yeah.
it's been just an upgrade. It's
And
been
then,
great.
okay, so next question. This is from Tom Sills, who says, he asked the last question. He asked this: what were the challenges of scaling your recipes from homebrew batches? You guys were already doing 30 gallons, though.
Yeah.
Tom,
yeah.
that was we were. It was great, but still, even from 30 gallons to 3 barrels or even 10 barrels is so uniquely different because every brew house has its own efficiency and everything else. And so you got to kind of rescale everything. And, hopefully, you brew one and it tells you the numbers and you roll that into an upscale everything else thereafter. But, going from 5 to 30 is a step. 30 to 3.5 and so on. It's wild.
But there's some great programs that we used. Brewfather.
Heck yeah.
Brewfather.
We love
Smith. So, I mean, they're pretty darn accurate.
There.
Yeah. That's this is something I've heard from a lot of friends of mine who brew professionally, is that the whole concern back in the day of scaling up is kind of not an issue now, because if if you've got somebody who brewed on that system before and said, hey, we're consistently getting 72%, you just change your percentage in Brewfather and bam, and you're basically making the same beer. I think there are certain things that are a matter of scale that you can't control for, that you're not, but that you just work around that stuff. You brew a batch, let's try something else next time.
Yeah, the biggest thing that was the scale up issue from, even three barrels beyond is now we're trying to deal with whole bags of things versus partial bags.
Right.
Well, yeah, and one of Brad's things when I was talking with him a couple of years ago on the show was you don't measure things out in ounces. Like that.
Right.
That is such a homebrew thing. You're measuring it out in bags, and if you're really a nerd, you're going half bags.
Right.
Like you don't go any, and they're doing 30 barrel batches now, something like that. But
yeah.
He's like, you don't go. It's just too much work to try to weigh it out and all. You just
really
it's
is.
rough measurements. He's like, it's so weird thinking back to the homebrew days when you're like, but I'm going to do 0.6 ounces of this one. Yeah. We don't. No.
Yep.
So interesting.
Yep.
Let's see. A lot of people asking multiple questions here. Eowyn Dawson, I think is his name, says, first question: what's the most important factor in terms of consistency between batches?
Ooh, water chemistry.
Okay, so I'm going to let that, because his next question is, do you have any opinions on this new chelating agent called Mash Life? I've never even heard of that.
The chelating?
He honestly
talked
asked
about
about
that today.
chelating.
That's crazy.
Chelating is how I said it before.
But
But
it's
Keloiding. Yes.
Chelating.
Not too much. I mean, obviously, we haven't played with that too much, but we do have our base chemistry, and also Brewfather helps us kind of work with that. Since I have multiple brew houses, we can change the water profile per brew house by using our software that helps us that, and so we definitely play with it, but we don't use any of that stuff. I don't know that we have very many heavy metals and stuff like that to worry about out here.
I got to pick some of that Mash Life up.
Yeah.
I've only heard of it through other people. I've not researched it. But I'd be curious to test it out.
Yeah.
Particularly for the purpose, I would imagine for the
precursors
purposes of, exactly,
Well,
for cold side oxidation.
On his question too, I mean, yeah, water chemistry, obviously your recipe, but then fresh hops.
Yeah, that's a big one. We did an experiment many years ago. Oh God, it was like the first year we were doing experiments where I had somebody, a fan of the Brewlosophy at the time, the website, sent me these old Simcoe hops that had a hole in the bag. He vacuum sealed them, but they had a hole in the bag. And he's like, hey, these are like 2 years old. So he sends them to me, and he's like, I figured you might have something you could do with them. I throw them on the workbench in the garage, which we know Fresno summers aren't cool.
Yeah.
And I let them sit out for another year, I believe.
Oh, goodness.
And then I compared those to fresh Simcoe hops. And I think all but one person was right on the triangle test, and that same person said they liked that old hop beer better. So I was just aghast. It was awful.
Yeah.
That beta acid bitterness, that like oily, harsh, hurts your tongue. You got to have fresh hops. And we're so lucky in this day and age to just have ample access to fresh hops. So.
And then when we scale up too, we use predominantly like it to make more space and everything, cryo hops or lupo hops or whatever.
Cryo,
anything that's condensed is a wonderful product.
Yeah. Well, and that's I'm not even going to ask, but there are so many downstream hop products available nowadays. I mean, you can make a whole batch of beer and have zero loss because
hop oils.
Right?
Whatever,
it just
yeah.
blows my
Right.
mind. Yeah. Anyways,
That's neat.
we'll get a couple more questions here. C. Miller asks, I might just do one of your questions. As your homebrewing progressed, did you acquire as you went on more advanced equipment? We already touched on that.
Yep.
Yes.
The answer is yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Question 2, do you consider it appropriate or not for a homebrewer to walk up to a brewery brew pub, introduce yourself, volunteer to clean mash tuns in exchange for looking on at the brewery? Do most brewers embrace this sort of volunteer work exchange for knowledge effort?
Because of legality, rarely can we let somebody in the brew house.
I think that's the thing people miss is that there's this kind of romantic idea of I'll wash the dishes for a free meal.
Yeah. No.
And I know that he's not asking about free beer. He's saying, can I come and just gain knowledge?
to learn.
He has
Right.
to be an
Be an
employee.
employee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you find a brew house that overlooks the brew area and you're able to sit there and drink and garner information,
Yeah.
that's totally
as
cool.
a patron, sure.
Yeah.
As a patron, right?
Yeah,
as a
but
patron.
not as an employee or
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Well, and again, I mean, you work with like Fresno State with their new Brew U, but that's a legitimate program, and then you have legality, all
It's
the.
And that's William doing
yeah,
that, right?
like,
Yeah.
But as far as just to go to a brewery and say, "Hey, can I look over your shoulder and I'll clean?" No, I don't think that.
We have like one of our friends, Andrew. Andrew is the
goodness.
best. Well,
Andrew.
multiple friends, Andrew, but one particular friend, Andrew. He's like, I want to see what it's like brewing, and this is like back in homebrew days, right? We're on the 30-gallon system. We made him clean the whole thing, and after his day, and it was in the summer, he was like, "This sucks. I'm never doing it
That's
again."
me. That's
Yeah,
me
right?
every time, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would want to do this.
You're
But
like,
hey,
this is the worst thing. Like, I never want to do this again. I'll buy your stuff. I ain't doing
we
that
ruined
anymore.
you, Andrew. Sorry,
that's-
bro.
I swear, Andrew and I are kindred spirits. I feel that in my soul. I've brewed in brew houses, and it's just not. It's just not for me. And
like step on the scale at the end of the night. I'm like, I lost 5 pounds in sweat. This is the best day ever.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, and then you
man.
gained it back in beer. Come on
yeah.
now. Let's see here. So I think the thing that a lot of people miss though is that there are legalities, and it's not that the brewer. I'm saying this to C. Miller.
We all want to.
Exactly. It's not that the
absolutely.
brewers don't want to have you back there. They would probably love it for the most part.
Oh, sure.
Especially if you're willing to rake freaking, spent grains out of the mash tun, and that's the sweaty work. It really is because of legalities and liability. So David Coons asks, what was one thing you brought over from homebrewing to pro that you thought would translate but didn't? Oh, that's a good question.
Ooh, that is
Something
a good
that
question.
didn't translate from homebrewing to professional brewing.
Ooh, I'm thinking recipe at this point.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, in a way, are you guys measuring by bags now as opposed to?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's
That's
a half
an easy
bag
one,
at
but-
the
That
minimal, but yeah, we're trying to recipe create with a whole bag in mind.
Also, we don't do any like 120 IBU IPAs. that didn't come around very easy.
We
I
tried.
mean, did that translate well in homebrewing? 'Cause
It
the
didn't
one
either.
time
Yeah.
I made one of
We're
those.
like,
ugh.
let's-
It was the first and last dumper.
Oh, you did it on the professional
It
scale?
was,
No,
it was a totally,
no,
like,
no.
accident. We were making one of our prize beers, and there were several buckets weighed out. Okay, here's to answer the question.
Okay.
Don't have all your hops weighed out for the day right then and there.
Goodness, that's
you might grab the wrong bucket.
Oh yes. Oh, I've heard this from more than
And-
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you just dumped in several pounds.
That was
into
supposed to be
your-
for the dry
something.
hop,
and your-
man.
And you're like first wart.
was supposed to be for the
like
dry hop,
oh,
man.
now you're boiling. Now your IBUs are messed up. But yeah.
Oh man.
And also the other thing that we don't like. So in brewery days, like we used to be able to like drink throughout the day. Not on the pro level. You have to be of right mind, and you can enjoy after your shift a beer.
Or 4.
Yeah, commercial brewing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I hear that from people too. It's like, man, the ability to drink while you're brewing is a homebrew thing. You do not do that on the pro scale. I've actually been to breweries where I'll show up and I text the brewer and I'm like, hey man, I'm hanging out. He'll have a beer with me.
Sure.
During the mash or whatever. But it's not the same. It's not
Not the
like
same, yeah.
like I would wake up at 6 o'clock. I built Brewlosophy off of 4 o'clock in the morning wake ups. Dead serious. I would wake up. I'd brew 2 batches of beer. The kids would wake up. I'd get them to school. I'd come back. I'd take care of family stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have 3 or 4 tasters samples because in the middle of brewing, I'm like, well, I've had my coffee. Most people aren't even out of bed yet. To me, this is like 11 and, it feels like it's 11 and I'd have a couple of tastes of whatever I just kegged. So let's see here. Jebediah Allen asks, as someone who aspires to go pro myself here in Europe, very cool. I'm only looking to be a storefront and only for supplemental income. Okay. Cool. Is it even worth staying small? The max would be a 300 liter system. So what's that in barrels? 300 liters would
2
be
2 liters per gallon or so.
4 liters per gallon. Yeah.
So like 3. No, that's just 5 barrel.
Five
Less than
barrel
5
or
barrel?
less. I mean, 300 liters is that's small.
Yeah, small.
And do it solo, or would I have to expand to see enough profit to make it worthwhile? This is a common question. Is what's the smallest amount I can make because I love the hobby and I want to sell it to be profitable?
How often do you want to be open per week?
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Is how much and how often are you going to be brewing? Because if you got 300 liters, that's going to be gone. If you're making great beer, that's going to be gone in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't think that'd be profitable.
300 liters, only 80 gallons.
80 gallons. Yeah. I was going to say it's like two-ish barrels, 2.5 barrels.
Yeah,
That's
if you're open,
super tiny. You'd have to brew a lot. You'd have to have inventory, cold room, cold box.
It's not
I mean,
worth
if your
it.
family owns the building and stuff, and there's no
Yeah.
about the rent, then just go for it. Be open on the weekends only. It'd be super fun.
I think we've all been to breweries like that, where you go to a garage, basically,
Right?
Industrial garage, but you go there and they're just there on the weekends doing their fun kind of hobby pro hobby thing. Yeah, I'll tell you, Jebediah, that I don't think 300 liters is going to make it because you're not going to be able to push enough beer to
scale
be
of volume
profitable.
again.
Yeah.
What is it like? So 15 gallons is 120 pints.
Yeah.
And you start extrapolating that, and you could be gone with beer in a weekend, and
Easily.
and then you're close 2 weeks making the next beer.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you want to have backlog.
Yeah. Good question though.
Great question.
And by the way, that we're not here to like poo poo on anybody's dreams. That's just a reality.
No, of course.
Of the business. I believe it was Jamil one time who said that this was years ago, so I'm going to misquote it, but that in order for a brewery to be profitable, you either go small and sell out all the time, or you invest $1 million and go big and hope people buy it. So it was something along those lines of because as a home brewer, they say that hobbies are for blowing money, jobs are for making it.
Right.
I can blow as much money as I want, and if somebody comes over and I secretly sell them a keg for $50, I just made $50 so that I can buy spend on more ingredients. That's way more profitable than spending $1,000 on a system and doing all of this and then opening up 2 days a week and outselling. So
there was back in the day, there was El Apothecary up in Bend, right?
Yeah.
They made some really, really eclectic rare beers, small system. They've grown since then, of course, but you had to make like reservations to go even pick up your bottles and all that. Some of these bottles are $50 a piece.
Whoa.
Right? So big money. If you're making beer like El Apothecary is and was, then I think you
can do it.
You could.
Yeah.
But that was
you have to build
really,
the base,
really
though,
eclectic
man,
stuff. And they were on the forefront of so much creative stuff.
Yeah. All right. Joshua Glazer says, when transitioning from homebrewing to professional brewing, what specific... Oh, we already asked that question. Jim says, go through... We already did that. All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
2 J's.
Here you go. I feel like we got to this already. Oh, we did. Yeah. Homebrewing recipes. That is every question we got.
All of them? Did we just race through all the questions?
I think so. Oh, no. Here we go. C. Miller had one more. No, we just answered it. Look at us.
C. Miller.
Awesome.
It's only been 2 hours and 40 minutes of uninterrupted.
That's true.
Yes.
Can you believe we did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to hear about how Grayview and Summer Fox merged?
Ooh.
Did we not get to that yet?
No, we
did.
only talked about the roommate part.
Yeah.
We're going to loop back around to this. Yes, let's finish it off with how that happened.
The totem, the 3 tiers. Yes.
3 tiers. Yeah. That's where we're at now. We never got to that.
It's a good way to, because we asked all these questions as the business piece, and now we're to the final. Let's do it.
Yeah, we didn't have loans before. Now we do.
I know. Thanks for serving us so much beer. Because I'm
of course.
Yes.
The hair is gone of the dog.
How do you like this next beer? By the way,
This is the
I
5-year.
taste barrel.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's a blend. You can read the bottle there. That was
Is it a wine barrel?
It's old ale, lactose.
It's old stock ale. Yeah.
Old stock ale.
Old stock ale. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Can
It's
I pee real quick?
delicious.
Yes.
he's gonna pee. Yeah. So it's an old stock ale blend.
Hey, here's the cool thing: is we have a bathroom attached to the studio. Now.
Yeah.
It's might as well use it. I know little Jay broke the seal a long time ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
why don't until he comes back, tell us a little bit about this beer because it's very, very interesting.
Okay, so old stock ale. Alex had made several years ago and did a blend with a stout that we'd made too, and so it's just really the culmination of the two. Now we pulled those nails even recently, and the stock ale itself is amazing, and we will have hopefully in the next year some bottles of it just by itself. But some of these barrels are going to start getting into the 3-4 year range.
So fun.
And people go, really crap beer. People, why don't you have a barrel coming out? Like they don't realize it takes sometimes years to produce that stuff. So you have the year of making it and then fermenting it and getting it to where it needs, and then transferring it to fresh emptied barrels. And then a minimum of 12 months of aging. And if you're really going for something a little bit further down the road, 4 or 5 years is not unheard of, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on your environment. Like, do you have an air-conditioned space? If it's air-conditioned, you're holding it in maybe the 50s or the 70s, it's going to be a slower to that richness process. But if it's like in the summer garage, you might want to start checking about 6 months in.
Yeah,
the swelling and the breathing of that barrel might already get you there.
Yeah, the fun thing about this is it has the reason I asked if it was a wine barrel is because I get that tannic kind of which I love about a good barrel aged beer is that it to me it rounds out. It's kind of like with a cider, you want to add some tannins to create that pop. But Old Ale, very cool.
Yeah, Old Ale and an Imperial Stout that had actually some lactose in it.
Really?
So, yeah.
You would never guess there was lactose in this.
Right.
At least I wouldn't. All right. This is the most exciting part of the Grayview story. We've talked a lot about exciting stuff. The partnership, the merging of Summer Fox with Grayview.
Yeah.
The call happens. You go and you talk.
We talk and
another one of those like private pull aside. Can we meet?
Like,
can we meet? Can we have dinner?
And at this point, we're tenants.
You
we're
paying
like,
for
did
it?
we?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Are
totally
we
paid. I'm like, yeah, sweet. Where we go? Max's. All right. Let's
Great.
go.
Did we do something wrong? What the heck?
Yeah. I'm like, is this like a?
And bring your wives. Last meal? Bring your wives.
Oh, bring your wives.
Really?
Yeah.
You're like, this is either really bad or really good.
So it's like the four couples, the original owners of Summer Fox, and Big J and Jenny and Kendra and I, and we're at Max's, and they throw down this like proposal, like, "Hey, this is what we're doing. We've got Fresno. Here's what we've done over the last 5 years, or this last year. Here's Clovis.
Yeah,
we got this new contract with the zoo, doing all the contract bottling with the zoo. We are committed to the tower, and this is the projections, and this is what the business is worth." Unfortunately, two of the partners were moving away. And so to fill that void, they were like, we couldn't think of anyone better than the two J's to partner with. Do you want to buy in? Crickets.
You're like, you could have asked us this earlier for private discussion.
I'm like, let me check with my CPA. Oh, wait, I don't have a CPA. I have...
let's check with the money we have.
Oh,
we got none.
Oh, my gosh. The value is so high. We're like, so...
That sounds
let's
great.
Get back to you on that, right?
Well, he and I are like, and he's asking questions, and I'm excited. I'm like, oh, that's super cool, awesome, great.
I would be so excited.
I want to be part of this big
and
thing.
Then,
right.
Our wives are just absolute pursed lip, saying nothing.
Yeah,
they're waiting for you guys to get a loan.
Yeah, and they're like,
what does this mean?
We'll get back to
you have kids in high school, all right? So
it
was a great proposal.
Yeah,
too.
Well put together. I mean, the numbers were like,
they had all of that at dinner.
Yeah.
It was good. To me,
Yeah.
that speaks volumes about their preparedness.
They knew where they were going. They were doing wonderful things already, and the trajectory was up. But they were at this pivotal point where like things they have to change. Right? Things got to modify or change. And they didn't know where or how, but they wanted to at least include us on that opportunity.
Yeah.
God, I love it.
And again,
Option 2 was they sell to somebody else.
Oh, exactly. So that was an option
Really?
2, which they were transparent and like, well, if this doesn't work out, we're already talking with someone else. And, the FOMO and this and that. And,
Oh yeah.
But after dinner, we were walking out to the cars, and we're like, that sounds great, but it's not even feasible. There's
Not in the
no way.
cards,
We have
yeah.
no money.
Yeah.
And again, well, okay, FOMO, but if they sell, we can talk to the new owners and
course.
arrange our tenant owner
Yeah.
relationship.
Hopefully
and-
they'll
You'd
be
likely know them
cool.
anyways.
Yeah,
probably.
hopefully they'll
Yeah,
be cool.
yeah.
Maybe they'll kick us out. We don't know. Are we going
Yeah.
to be homeless again, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
said, hey, let's meet in a week or two, and we'll get back to you. And so 2 weeks later, in the meantime, though, my wife's like, you know what? Guys, Grayview is worth something.
It really is.
we're doing the numbers already. Like,
Yeah, like
what is our value, right?
what are we worth outside of just the J's? Like
Yeah.
our equipment, our kegs,
Yeah.
our
$500,
our
man.
proprietary recipes.
Yeah, everything. Everything has a number.
Yeah, and so basically, my wife's like, what they're asking you to pay, Grayview is at least worth that much. We need to counter. And we're like, oh,
Agree.
agree.
How lucky are you to be married to somebody so thoughtful?
Yes, it's, yeah.
God.
Looking out for us, right?
That countering didn't even come to my mind.
I-
and I'm,
Neither,
and
yeah.
I'm like a counter guy. Like,
Yeah, I was always on that thing. I was like, yeah, this is not going to work out. But let's talk. And so, that whole counter thing. I started putting some spreadsheets and some numbers together, and then we countered. And what was cool about the counter is the existing two partners that remained that actually moved away. Gary and Bethany, they're like, actually, I think we're in. And Gary is like, I continue to do like the books and the that kind of stuff. And Bethany's I'll be the HR side. And actually, Kevin and Sarah had some new opportunities on. They've done nonprofits in the past, and they've started new businesses. They were ready to like pivot and change. And
wow.
Gary was like, "We're in."
Money wise.
Let's give you some ownership. Let's exchange this. Let's transition. Grayview can be now owners of the whole thing. And then we were like, yeah, wait. Yep, but one more request.
Yeah.
Our buddy Alex over here, our head brewer who owned Intergalactic before, who helped put us back on the map as Summer Fox. What about extending some percentage to him and some
This is the way
capacity?
people are doing it now.
Right?
I love it.
And
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
like, absolutely yes. And so
Come
here we
on.
are. And then, in the past month, we've coined this whole thing, even though we've got parent company, Summer Fox, right? Which Jay and I are owners
Let me
of.
backtrack just a little bit on
Oh,
that.
you got to backtrack?
I'm going to backtrack. I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
all
I
right.
know where you're going.
telling me
You
I
know where I
missed
go.
something.
I'm knowing where you're going with this.
Okay,
So,
all right, back.
So quickly, we're in this relationship since July of last
Summer
year.
Fox
Summer
relationship.
Fox.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are now a percentage of ownership. We brought Intergalactic back. Alex and then our manager Kyle have vested as things go over the next 5 years. Have potential ownership interest. And again, it's all about that ability to give back to your employees, right? If you are an owner of the company you work for, my golly, this is
Gotta.
you're going to bleed for it, right?
Without a doubt.
So,
Without a doubt.
We have our day job experiences on employees and stuff, right?
yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
So, but I was like, here we are, Grayview, Summer Fox, and Intergalactic. What's our identity? Well,
where do we go? Yeah.
quick story. I had a shirt that I stole from Galactic or Gigantic from Portland.
Gigantic, yeah,
And it was
yeah.
Keep Portland Embarrassing,
Is the-
right? Not your
Embarrassing,
typical
yeah.
Keep Portland
Weird,
Embarrassing
yeah.
or weird,
Yeah.
right? But I was like, oh my goodness, Keep Portland Embarrassing.
we're gonna steal his.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
right.
But so we've been going to the Firestone Walker Invitational for years. That's another side story, Marshall.
This
but
is a whole.
yeah,
That's a whole series.
that's a whole
Yeah.
series. But I made a shirt that said "Keep Fresno Embarrassing,"
Love it.
and did this whole thing, and went to a taste with him and exchanged
It's
it
not
and took
embarrassing
pictures and
for
all
my
that stuff.
friends out there. I love it. And it's my
No,
favorite thing
I mean,
Amen,
I
brother.
but that's satire.
that is satire. It is satire. But as we talked about earlier in the show, it's like, hey, all those people from LA and
Yeah.
San Francisco that like snub their nose at us in
They
Fresno,
sure
it's like, hey, it's my embarrassing.
It sure
And
is.
you know what? Keep the F out.
Yeah.
You know, hey, if
You
it's
don't like
embarrassing, hey, don't stay out then.
No one's forcing you to
So
come here.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, if it's embarrassing to you, then stay away.
I got a pool. I like the hot.
So
Yeah, I love
we're,
it.
we're,
I love
we're
the
now
heat.
trying to, so I'm like, okay, keep Fresno embarrassing. Oh, well, maybe that's Fresno and Santa Fe. Tower. It's Tower. We're going to keep Tower embracing.
Hell
right?
yeah.
Embracing.
And so we're kind of coming up with like, well, what's Clovis, man? Keep Clovis, fill in the blank. Oh my goodness. Keep it country? Well, that's cliche.
Country.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, no, of
Keep it
course
rodeo.
not. Yeah, keep it rodeo, right?
Yeah, there
Keeps
we
it
go.
filling, right?
Yeah.
Keep it country. Yeah, right.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. So then I came up with something which I was like, I don't know if my peers are going to like that, but
I cannot wait to hear this.
We liked it.
and they liked it a
pretty funny.
lot. Where is it? Yeah. So,
Yeah. So you came up with it.
well, and it's called Keep
There you go.
Bottom. Keep Clovis
Bucking.
Bucking.
I
Heck
love
yeah,
it. You got to go with the rodeo.
You gotta go
Right,
to the
you
rodeo.
have
You
to.
mentioned it, right?
We have one of the best rodeos in the state of
Well-
California here. Yeah. And
Here in
it's-
Salinas, the two rodeos.
Salinas is like yeah.
So
I love it.
you look at it though. It's the fox,
The fox, yeah.
the Dutch belted cow,
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Look at that.
and the top right, which this is the Clovis city of Clovis logo.
Yeah.
Spark on the
And then
on
the
upper
spark
right.
is the intergalactic alien top.
Oh, how
right.
cool is that? I bet
Yeah.
Alex loves that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So so we were like, oh man, keep Clovis bucking. We're gonna do the bucking lager.
I love
right?
it so much, yeah.
Keep Tower embracing Fresno. Big
Not
J
embarrassing.
was not embarrassing. Now you said something. You coined something which Jay was like, "Ooh, what's that?"
We're stealing it early on the show.
Keep
Hit it.
Clovis, or keep Fresno. What did you say?
What did I say?
Gruff? Was it gruff?
No, but we did go through the Keep Fresno Gritty because Gritty is awesome. But
Keep
like
Fresno
that.
endearing.
enduring, yeah, right.
Embracing, blah 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 blah.
But not embarrassing. We don't.
No.
we
I don't think the thing here's the thing. People who talk about Clovis and Fresno often talk about it without actually pointing out why people don't like it's insanely conservative here. Like, see, you just big eyes.
Yeah.
That is why San Francisco and Los Angeles love to make fun of us. The reality is we've got Tower District. We've got these beautiful places that embrace people. Not everybody here is what you think it is. They are
Right.
by living here. And I think that's the part that people like us who are more open-minded, and I'm not dissing the people who live here.
Right.
They fund the breweries that are around
Absolutely.
here. They love it. And to be honest, I think I say we as the industry play into it a little bit, it's, and it's fine. Keep Clovis bucking. I mean, it's a rodeo town. That's
Absolutely.
just, what to expect. But a lot of the opinions people hold about it are made up. It's just because of what they see on TV or the color of the map during election season, and I don't know what to say about that. It's
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
if that's going to keep you out, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, born
you
in
know?
Fresno. I mean, there's so much pride there and everything.
So much pride.
And,
Yeah.
I've lived in other places too. And
As have
so
I. Seattle, Washington.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
We're
goodness!
boomerang.
I'm from Northern California.
Exactly.
I mean, sheesh.
But there's nothing that feels as good as our own shoe
It's
here
just
in Fresno, right?
And I do feel like, in a weird way, the blending of beer with that culture changes things. You can't really have the opinions that a lot of people hold about us with badass beer, and they just don't work together.
Sure.
And so I think it's interesting, but man,
we're working on the Fresno name.
So you've seen that one, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then have you seen the totem? You've seen that, right?
Yeah, the triple.
Oh yes,
triple
yeah.
So we were
The
working on
orange,
like
I love that.
we were working on the mantra of like, because now that we're a big part of Summer Fox, we're owners in the nameship and everything, and we're think of us as like, your typical Coke Sprite.
What's our identity?
Dr. Pepper, right? What is our identity? And so we kind of worked over the past few weeks just thinking about that, and Jay was
Jay and Protege and Kendra.
Protege is the funniest thing I've heard.
Yeah, right.
That is amazing.
When I was
by the way.
peeing, I heard you guys laugh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Protege. A little shout out.
There's another Jay who works at
new
Summer
assistant
Fox.
brewer. We just had his first ever pro beer.
Delicious,
here.
by the way.
Yeah.
We threw him
Delicious.
on the deck and said, "Then brew," and he did, and it was wonderful. And so, protege, and he's in his defense, he's like, "Yeah, but I'm the only J." He's like J-A-Y. He's not a full
He's not a Jason.
And he's like, "I'm the real J," and I'm like, "Nah, you're still protege."
Come on now.
And he
It's
embraced
genius,
it.
yeah.
It's fun. But
So we're going to go into
Go, you're
what
talking.
Big J was
Yeah.
like segueing and foreshadowing about. But I'm going to go back. So
my gosh,
I came
you
to
go back
Fresno.
again?
I mean,
We're gonna
it's not
way
going to take
back.
long, but I came to Fresno to play soccer.
Oh, okay.
So I went to Fresno State, played soccer. My goal was to be a professional soccer player. The side would be a physical therapist. Well, after Fresno State, I was going to try out for a club team in England, Leicester City, whose mascot is the fox.
Come
and
on.
it
Jason
gets better than
Lester.
that. So
The fox.
Stop it. So I unfortunately blew out my first knee. As I told you earlier, I've had 9 knee surgeries. So
My word.
that dream was stopped. I rehabbed, finished Fresno State. My brother and I played together 2 years at Fresno State. We were the Gray brothers, and he went to play pro in Denmark.
Wow.
And he came back. I recovered from my first knee surgery. My dad, out of dairying, Grayview, bought a soccer store, and so that's what funded all of our soccer gear and stuff, going to college and all that. But he started a pro team, and I started playing for it along with my brother. Blew out my second knee.
Yeah.
So then I went to PT school, and years later, after starting Physio Motion, got involved with the local amateur team, the Central Valley Fuego.
Yeah.
And our good friend Jeremy Schultz, who is the owner of 1852 in Visalia.
Oh, okay.
Come full circle back to beer.
Yeah.
Beer and soccer, what a great combo. Brought me on as the physio, which then I formed the medical team for the Fuego. I mean, it was orthopedics, it was physical therapy, it was athletic training, strength and conditioning, cardiology, dermatology, optometry, whatever.
Dang.
The medical
You took a
team.
knee, for real.
I took a knee. And they developed that amateur club so well that a pro team came into town and bought them out.
I know.
That's going, and their mascot was the fox.
That's crazy, dude.
So Fox and Fox, right?
And now
And then we
this
get
is
this.
so crazy.
the
Yeah.
trifecta, and now Summer Fox. So
It just must feel so right.
It is surreal.
What,
See,
what an amazing
My only
story.
Fox experience was before that, because he has all these like Fox background things. I just married a fox.
I was just gonna say my
Yeah, I
only
just-
Fox experience is
Yeah,
sitting
Jenny-
out in the kitchen right now.
Jenny's
hot
foxy,
mama.
yeah.
Hot mama, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
And boy, did I marry up! I'll tell you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No offense, both of you did. as
Didn't we
well.
all?
We
Didn't we
did.
all?
We did.
Yeah, and just I mean, honestly, how beautiful of a story it is. I this episode we're at 2 hours and about 3 hours at this point.
Are you gonna cut any of it?
I'm
No.
not going to cut anything because
Oh, my
I
goodness.
feel like this is such a homegrown story, and what better of a professional story for a largely homebrewing audience
I
that
mean,
we
we get
have.
sleeping bags. We keep going.
I mean,
all night.
I don't think anybody listening right now doubts that we could keep going all night long.
Oh, my goodness.
There's just story after story, and I feel like that's such a part of what makes the Grayview story so rad, and what makes the Summer Fox story now
Yeah.
such a cool story. And I mean, I have friends who live out in the West Side. I believe Summer Fox was out there before it was
Yeah.
anywhere else. And West Side here is not a bad thing.
Right.
It's just literally the West Side of the county.
it's got its own story.
Yeah, it's got its own story, and they've been drinking at Summer Fox as their like home base for years now. And when I told them, I was like, "You get access to now Grayview beers too." And like this is, if people are driving through and they stop at Summer Fox, do they just ask for Grayview beers? Is that
It's on the menu when we have our actual brewed by the two of us beers. So, and that's one thing that now that we're owners, we are definitely wearing different hats.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the goal is to get to a point where the business is running itself, our leads are in the right place with the right management, and then again, we'll start brewing much more, because that's the passion.
that's the passion?
That's the
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Our new mantra, though.
Oh,
Cannot wait.
You almost left that.
This is the
that's
perfect
a
way.
cliffhanger
see,
right there.
I
Our
tell
new
you,
mantra.
so
The perfect way to finish this off. What is
Summer
the-
Fox, Intergalactic and Grayview. We are the Summer Fox as the umbrella of corporation, right?
Yeah.
Where does a fox live?
Community, passion, all those things. But
A den?
there you go.
So we are the Den of Friends.
I love it.
Den of Friends.
It pains me how much I love that.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. We are the cheesiest three brewers on earth, I
Yeah,
think,
right?
honestly. Like, we're going
Right?
to cry about
I
this.
know.
I was telling him a story during a break, and I started tearing up about that. Look, we have run out of time. And for those of you who have stuck around for all of this, there's a good reason for it. There's good people. And two of them are sitting in front of me right now in the beer world and in brewing. And if this is something that you're passionate about, I often have to like remind myself, not everybody is like you, dude, you know, and my sentiment and mentality when it comes to starting a business is very much, it has to make money. It has to make money, because if I have a family, and if I'm pulling from my family's funds to fund this business, it's just, there's no way it's going to work. But there are people out there who have made it work in a way that is so unconventional. Mm-hmm. Grayview is one of those. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. If any of you listeners out there are ever cruising through the Central Valley and you're in Fresno, maybe going to Yosemite or Kings Canyon, all of the beautiful places that nobody likes to talk about, but we know are awesome.
Amen, brother. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We love it. You got to stop into Summer Fox Brewing. There are 3 locations now.
Yeah.
Is it 3? Yeah. And Tower District, I have yet to make it down there, but I cannot wait. It's just so far from here.
So much,
That's why it's just so
much history there.
So much history. It's a beautiful part of the city. Again, they embrace everybody. It's just a beautiful thing. Grayview does the same thing. You got to stop in. You're not going to be disappointed. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, The Brewlosophy Show, where host Martin Keene covers a bunch of fascinating topics in the world of brewing and beer. And remember to head over to brewlosophy.com to stay current on everything we're up to. The Brewlosophy Podcast is made possible by the generous support of our sponsors, as well as all of our rad listeners. We seriously could not do this without you. Cheers to everyone who has subscribed and left a review of our show. It makes a huge difference. If you haven't yet, please consider doing so. Head over to brewlosophy.com/support to view a list of ways you can easily help us to continue producing this podcast. If you want a reward for your support, visit patreon.com/brewlosophy. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Brewlosophy Podcast. Until then, think beer.
Start off the morning with some hot tea, lemon and honey, cause it suits my throat. Put some herb in the bowl, yeah, it's homegrown. Ain't gotta go through the middleman no more.